I couldn't take my eyes off of it. The view was just, the earth glowed, okay, in this absolute vastness of black. The earth, like, because sun was up behind us, and it's obviously emitting the sun rays onto the atmosphere, and some of it actually deflects, but it looked like this little light when you live on a child's
almost
side
as if
table.
a baby, I was going to say, right? Like a baby.
Yeah, one of those like dim, matte, not bright, but warm glow.
Right.
That's what Earth looked like.
Wow.
Like it looked like it glowed. I'm fairly new to being in space.
Right. That's interesting. So before we get into that adventure of yours, I want to praise you for, in my estimation, being a great embodiment and example of courage and believing in your dream. Because although I've read your story quite superficially because I want to hear it from the sort of main source, you know what I admire the most generally? People who stand for what they believe and for examples of people's obsession. I really, for all my life, have always admired endlessly people who have this. I don't know if you've seen that film, Great Gatsby. Have you seen that film?
Yes.
So, you know, Great Gatsby, he always has had that little green light that has, you know, been his fascination for all his action and all his motivation. And I find it powerful. And that's, sometimes it's not always romantic. I'm sure you have undergone a lot of sacrifice in your life, right, on your way to accomplishing it, you know.
Yeah, it's something that if you put your mind to something, you can make it happen. And, you know, even going against all the naysayers saying, oh, why don't you just look on the pictures? Why do you need to spend all this money? Why did you need to get yourself in debt over this ticket? And I've had people constantly asking me that, and you know what? It's something that I always dreamed about it. I always wanted to see the world from up there with my own eyes.
For those who might not be aware, you are first Ukrainian woman to have been in space, basically.
Correct.
Right? Which is quite a title.
To cross that line, to cross that line and to be in space.
Amazing. So, I can't wait to get into that story. If you don't mind, though, taking us back all the way, you are a Ukrainian, so you were born in Odesa, right?
Correct.
And so
born and raised.
Yeah, right. Born and raised in Odesa. Take me a little bit back to where you studied. How was your studying going? What exactly did you study? And did your space fascination begin pretty much in your childhood?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just a regular kid, normal family, mom, dad, grandparents. Was born in Odesa, Ukraine, in February, 55 years ago. It was my birthday this month. I mean, my parents were, my dad was in the military, my mom was an interpreter. That's how they met. My grandparents, my grandpa sold men's suits, and my grandma used to be an accountant at the supermarket. So in our family, there was no scientists. Majority of the historical, it's, you know, everybody in my family sewed, like, you know, made dresses, things. My great-grandpa was a tailor. So not something that people expected of me. I am artistic. I did go to art school for 4 years when I was a kid, but as far as the science in the family, I'm the only one so far. And at the age of 6, my dad actually got sent to Kyrgyzstan, to Bishkek, and me and my mom followed there. So we were there for about 4 years until he was forced to resign. And my dad used to, you know, everybody in the family worked. I didn't have a babysitter kind of thing. So when my cousin wasn't with me, because sometimes both my mom and my aunt left us with the grandparents, and when I was by myself at home, or my dad used to tuck me in bed, tell me bedtime stories about me sneaking up on the spaceship and having space adventures. My more clear memories, it's about the age of 4. So my dad tried to teach me different languages when I was a kid, but the space was always kind of on my tuck in bed situation.
You think that's where it really all began, right?
Correct. So he instilled the interest, and I always was fascinating with stars in the sky, and it's, I had children's books with the constellations on it, and the fairy tales or Greek mythology, why certain constellations, what went with that. When I got a little older, I could actually read that. I still have my original Greek mythology book that, gosh, it's older than me.
And you still got it, right?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, it's in a really kind of like poor condition, but because I read it so many times, and I love to read. I can see you do too.
Yes,
I've got the library behind. Yes. I've got the library behind me over there.
Okay.
A bunch of books. But in general, like my dad used to, show me the pictures, tell me the stories about which constellation, why does it have its name, and tell me the story about it, kind of more in a short version of it. But the whole love of it was me having little space adventures, being stowed away in a spaceship with my cousin when I was a kid, and flying in space, sneaking on a spaceship when we were kids, and things like that. So that kind of sparked my interest about the cosmos. And I used to be laying in bed and thinking about the universe. I mean, the infinity of the universe used to frustrate me horribly, because the more I think, so where's the end? There's no end.
A lot of people can't even figure it out. I've talked about this with lots of people, and there's this proposition that the universe is endless, and I agree with that to the best of my ability, but I can't even imagine it, right?
You can comprehend it, so where does it end? What's after?
You know what freaks me even more? The proposition that it's endless to the point that there are endless amount of planets in which I can exist and you can exist, but to the smallest differences. So there's hopefully a universe in which I've got a better quality of video, perhaps. I would want it, to happen at least. Yeah.
You see, for me, it would be something that, it's called Ring Around the Sun. That writer Clifford Simak wrote one of those books about the multitude of universes of the same Earth repeating itself through, a microsecond. So, and each universe, and each Earth has completely different life. And people start, in his science fiction, that there is a connection, so people can travel through one Earth to the other. He was a 1940s to 1960s science fiction writer. In America, he's a little bit more obscure, I would say, not like main one like Asimov or Bradbury, but
or Philip K. Dick. May I ask you if you read those books?
Oh, Philip Dick is as I say, I can take you to my library.
Oh man, he's so good. I've only recently discovered him. I can't shut my mouth about Philip. He's so. He predicted a lot of things. He was ahead of his time.
Of course. Robert Sheckley did too. So those are the two kind of a future dystopian writers that were not completely sci-fi, instead of not like space sci-fi, but more Earth technology development.
So for that reason, we probably sometimes more often must look into fiction to check what's likely to happen in the future, other than non-fiction, right? Strangely.
But exactly, that's why I'm so fascinated with that, because when I was 6 years old, I read this book. For the life of me, I don't remember the author, which is really shameful of me, but it was about this little girl, Elisa, and the book started that the video phone rang and Baba Yaga was on the screen, and it was written for kids. And I was sitting there, I was 6 years old, I read it multiple times, and I would think, like, never in my life would that happen, you know. I mean, then we each carry the video phone in our pocket. We can talk half the way across the world to each other and see each other and communicate, and this is just like in the past 20-year development. But, you know, 50 years ago, it wasn't like that. However, somebody probably read that book, got inspired or similar to that. Sure. Star Trek, I mean, all their communicator devices, you know. So somebody dreamt of it.
Right, and then implemented it.
Then an inventor, somebody with a completely different mindset, read it, got inspired, and think, okay, how can I make this work? So it takes multiple types of people with a different imagination, with a different setup that make things like this happen. I mean, who knew? Like, people build the first airplane. After that, you know, a lot more people, when they see it happen, then they start developing it. Same thing with the space flight. I mean, the, you know, rockets were exactly the same design across the world initially, and now there's you know, different development, shuttles. The Bertrand's design is very different about carrying it, like, so to avoid the whole 9G gravity, fighting, trying to burn a lot of fuel. It takes you up to the edge of the atmosphere, then it drops you, and you just, you know, you experience Max 4.3.
Wow.
So a normal person can completely withstand that. Somebody who is, you know, has Parkinson's or have disabilities would not be able to withstand 9Gs. But this type of technology allows people from any walk of life to go to space. And that's the whole point behind it. But again, everything started with books for me. It started with a little spark. It started with something. You see, I'm DNA chemist. I'm synthetic DNA chemist. I create life from chemicals. So when people ask me what I do, I say I'm a goddess. I make life from nothing.
Which you
it's a joke, do. But you know, CRISPR, gene editing, all the stuff. There's a great physicist, biophysicist, that wrote this series of book called Darwin's Radio. So it touches on that there is, and there's another author named Breen. So he writes about the genetic, I mean, he's actually a physicist from San Diego, but he wrote that it's about the deviation and development of species and the dominance of some species over the other. Like humans, they genetically modified the apes. So apes now are more humanoid, they communicate.
And by CRISPR, sorry to interrupt, by CRISPR, do you refer to that Chinese company? I have very vaguely heard of that name.
No. CRISPR won the Nobel Prize.
Oh, so.
Actually, a woman chemist won a Nobel Prize. If you ever get to watch the documentary, but that's technology for gene editing and fixing the genetic diseases. It's quite recent. But, you know, it's, this is the field I work in. So synthetic, I used to make genes from scratch, with mutations, with modifications to produce designer proteins to treat diseases.
I imagine that's the very front page of science right now, right? Is that where
correct
that holds the most potential, right, for future developments?
Yeah, because cancer, genetic diseases that are pretty much you can't cure currently, but it will be able to modify the AC1 for diabetes in children. I mean, there's a lot of research right now is going to, I mean, all it took is one person to prove the technology on that. So for me, being in this industry, I mean, I've been in this since 91, actually working in a laboratory. It was at that point just an idea. Same thing when I bought the ticket 19 years ago.
Crazy to see how it's being implemented right now, I bet.
Correct. So I'm lucky to be here and now and actually see that my whole scientific career didn't go down the toilet because nothing actually came out of it. But the big breakthrough for us, like in our industry, was the Duke University and their modified poliovirus to kill the brain tumor glioblastoma. The way that works, they took, because the poliovirus infects the cells and kills them, eats them in brain. To get anything into the brain, it's extremely complicated because of the blood-brain barrier, because if it's, you know, other than the direct injections, nothing technically works. So what they did, they took a poliovirus sequence. By that time, the gene synthesis technology developed enough that you don't have to have a live virus. What they did, they took the virus sequence, removed the replication cycle or castrated it so it can't grow. What they did, they also modified where the virus comes to the cell, binds to it, to the receptor, and then penetrates the cell. Usually the poliovirus is in tune to the healthy brain cell. That's how it destroys the brain. What they did, they modified the receptor in identification to the one that would recognize the glioblastoma cell, the cancer cell, but not the healthy cell. So they changed the whole genetics of the virus, but didn't change its function. So when that virus is synthesized synthetically and injected into the middle of a tumor, infects all the tumor cells, eats them, and then goes dormant.
Wow.
In one touch, the healthy cell. And that was like the huge breakthrough because glioblastoma is a terminal cancer, 3 to 6 months survival rate. So that's kind of like was a proof of technology.
So when you say that they took a virus sequence and removed something out of it, how did they exactly do it? Is it all done, I imagine, with the help of tools or some microscopes? How is that exactly done?
No, it's a sequencing. It's a sequencing. So there is technology now, the same way that they sequence a human genome in, you know, late 90s. So it reads, people know the sequence of the virus. There is a way of figure out like what sequence, what ACGT or ACGU is in the sequence. Same with the COVID sequence. It's an RNA single strand, so people can actually read it. It's called real-time PCR. So it actually, the machine, you amplify the ends, and then the little, you know, the little bases, they couple and they emit the signal. And the machine catches the signal. Each signal signifies which base it is. So that's how you decode your genetic sequences. It's still going on. There's still a lot to find out, or develop. That's a whole separate part of the sequencing and decoding and finding markers for cancer, for genetic diseases. And
so the future, the eventual like goal is to successfully treat cancer, right?
Fingers crossed. As a cancer survivor, I'm all for it because the current methods are brutal. Brutal. Chemo kills you more than the cancer does, leaves lasting damage to your body. So something that's biological or something that's genetically just remove the variant that could develop into cancer. You know, like every man carries a prostate cancer gene. Every single male on this planet. Nobody's immune from it. If you live long enough, you will get it. That gene's gonna activate. That's why you guys need to do, like for women for breast cancer, you need to do exams, start early, establish the line, because when it's an early stage, it's curable. After it breaks out, you're done. And it's one of the more painful cancers to die from. So, as I say, if we can do, I mean, okay, in China, the guys use that technology to change something within the embryo. Same thing, if the embryo got the genetic mutations, and there's quite a bit of them, there's a lot of non-active gene sequences that could get activated for the way the chromosomes come together for like kids with like trisomy 13, Down disease, all others. It's, you know, we just scratched the surface of all that. We don't even know what causes Alzheimer's. It's like chicken and an egg. Was it the tau protein? Was it the plaque? Is it A beta or this? So there is something in your genetic makeup that clicks that one code, one mutation that happened. So right now, the big thing in my personal, like in our world and DNA chemistry world, people trying now to do individual patient care, to develop specific set of shorter DNAs, synthetic DNAs, to sequence that person's, damaged gene and figure out where they need corrections. There's also people working on using like the poliovirus, they're using like Zika virus, HIV virus for treatment of certain cancers. Again, they remove the dangerous part of the virus, and then they modify the other ones, so the way of penetrating into the cell remains, but it not become dangerous. It's not going to kill you. So there's quite a lot of universities, hospitals that are right now working on that type of technology. So yeah, this is kind of my as I say, I read something about that when I was a kid, and it inspired me to go into this type of field. I'm too empathic to work in a hospital or being a veterinarian because if something or somebody dies, it's really like I can't handle it. So I decided to go on the other side of it and try to, contribute from, research point of view. But again, I got inspired by something, again, science, technology, mathematics, whatever it is. First women, the lunar landing, mathematicians, the people who have mathematics, which is not my favorite subject, but that's why there's such a diversity of us. And whoever got inspired by reading a book when they were a kid about the girl talking in the video camera to somebody and said, that would be cool to develop. And this has became their life mission. So, and nowadays, all we pretty much do is watch cat videos, and the kids want to be influencers, which I absolutely hate that word because it means forcing. I'm trying to kind of change the connotation. I want to inspire. I would not want to influence anybody to do anything because that takes kind of a free will away. It's my big pet peeve right now, that and the flat earthers. But,
we will touch upon that a little bit. I can imagine you would also assume that a question about flat earth would come to a person who has directly been up there,
Yeah, and they say, oh, it's all stage, it's all this, and, everybody lied to us in school. You know what's scary part? Those people have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and you look at the professional, like, on the scientist, an astronaut, and they have maybe 10,000
exactly,
followers.
if that in a better case.
If that. And that's what... that's what's scary.
We will get there. It's a fascinating phenomena in its nature, to be honest. The fact that some people are just
idiocracy now.
Yes, there's this susceptance to something like that. Have you always had the desire to be the first in something? Has that been a part of your ambition?
Not really, to be honest. I'm a pretty down to earth, regular person.
As down to earth as possible, right? Considering recent events.
Even more so now that I've actually been to space. The experience was so humbling. I'm a lab rat. I'm just, I'm a scientist. I'm a nerd. My kind of a goal in life to be like a contribution to something that would help humanity. Never had that ambition of being first or, I've always been a part of the team. This just kind of happened that I ended up being the first Ukrainian female in space.
That's where dreams can take you, quite reasonably.
And, couldn't have been the perfect timing too, because as I say, the world is, the information, like one event comes in, another event, it's all about sensation nowadays, and people forget.
Yeah.
People already forgot. It's been 2 years. It's still raging. It's getting worse. People are suffering. Kids are dying. And the world moved on and more interested about, you know, ooh, Taylor Swift is coming to the Super Bowl. You know, the importance of ignoring what's going on. And, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Sir Richard. That's why pretty much I chose his idea. Plus, it was the first one and it was the most affordable at the time. He's a huge proponent of stopping this war. He's a part of the group of elders that goes around problematic zones in the world, the conflict zones, especially like in Africa, places where people cannot come to peaceful agreement and it's a bloodshed. And they try to, because they don't represent either of the governments, and they're trying to find a way to stop the genocide, stop the killing, stop the bloodshed. They've been doing this for quite a long time, and it's not, as I say, things like this should be talked about, but it's not very big knowledge. It's never makes the main news. It's, you know, it's people doing what they need to do to help the world.
I totally agree with what you said, that the time couldn't have been more perfect indeed, and you've done quite a spectacular reminder to the whole world about Ukraine and what's going on. And it's pretty funny to hear this notion of international community getting tired of this war. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad, but it is what it is. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
Smart people understand what the implication of this war is going to be if Ukraine falls.
So, being in the States, not to jump too far ahead of myself, because I've selected this topic for a bit later conversation. So, being in the USA, how do you evaluate general people's awareness of what's truly going on in Ukraine, and are you faced with a lot of resistance from simple folks in the United States?
Well, as I say, some people don't even know it's still going on. That's, as I say, it was as a blip on the news, and now it went away because there's more important things, like, you know, it was some funny cat video that hit like 1 million likes. It's, you know, it's a saying, head in the sand. If it's not touching me, I don't care, I'm going to ignore it. And, you know, it gets to the point where you cannot ignore it anymore. And it's... people ask me where I'm from. I'm like, I said, born and raised in Ukraine. And, you know, they say, well, sorry about the war. I said, me too. But, you know, war is still going on. Same thing, you know, when Ukrainian war was going on, the war in Israel, another conflict in Israel. So that took the front stage. Now nobody talks about that either. It just kind of a went, and because it needed to distract from some other things that's been going on, like, you know, criminal trial on our ex-president.
Right.
You know, it's a really interesting, well, it's a known factoid that, you know, the White House usually delivers bad news on Friday. They call it kind of like the garbage day, because on Friday people are more interested in the happy hour. They're not listening to the news. So all the crap stuff gets delivered Friday afternoon. So
yeah, right. And do you also think that is just appears to be the nature of our attention span, that we aren't just naturally able right now to focus on one piece of news for prolonged time compared to the past? I feel like even if the aliens landed and in near time, it would be big news for no more than 2 days, and then everybody would be off to next thing.
Until some celebrity shows her tits on TV. You know, it's not just that. It's I have a feeling, maybe because it's now internet and all the idiots have an opinion, you know, it's out there. But I think the general dumbing down of educational system, even if the information is all available, the level of education around the world technically slumped.
Strangely, despite the access, right? The global access to it.
Correct. We carry the knowledge of the world in the palm of my hand, and all I want to do is watch a funny cat videos.
Right.
You know, it's people stop logically thinking. They don't teach kids logic anymore. It's just like you need to take a test, pass, don't pass, pick an answer. You know, if you answer all the C's from the ABC answer or ABCD answer, you will get middle grade. So it's just kind of like a rule of thumb. If you just go down, not even reading questions. We used to, you know, my generation, we used to, you know, you used to have to write the whole of the subject. You go to the table, you pick up a ticket with a number, and that number corresponds to 3 questions from anywhere in the curriculum. And you have to go on the back seat of the room during the exam. You have 15 minutes to draw the notes, to write the answers, then go in front of the panel of the teachers and verbally deliver. Made you not only think, but it taught you how to express yourself, how to, you know, look for the information. I spent, you know, nights in the library going through old prints or microfiche or, you know, to find the information. Now it's like in the touch of my finger. So your brain is kind of like, oh, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to dial it. Yes, it's convenient. Yes, it's great. But as I say, each technology has a pro and con, to be honest. So, but I mean, my kind of overall just seeing what's going on. And, I mean, little kids are still kind of my goal of trying to inspire the little ones.
While it's
because
possible.
At the age of 6, 7, that's when the brain is still
flexible enough.
You know, flexible enough to, you know, get excited about something, to put a good seed
Purely
in there.
magical
but
age.
not,
I miss being 7
I mean,
years.
I'm asking a lot of people, like within a group of my friends, they have like teenage kids. What does your kid want to be? Or an influencer.
YouTuber.
I'm like, really?
TikToker.
I'm like, yeah.
So you're basically saying that it's not sometimes even about the information itself, as if the way of how you extract and get this information, and information sometimes shouldn't be easily accessible, right? You've got to work to get the access to it.
Well, in some situation, you need to make your brain keep working. If you stop, if it's idling, and all it is like you don't have to think, because if somebody during the conversation, used to be times, it says, I'm trying to remember this person, what was his name? And your brain is just going completely crazy, trying to dig through like levels and levels of years of information. And you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, now all you do is do that. Your brain remains
I wonder
way
what
more
it does
idle.
to us long term, you know?
Yeah, well, as I say, the brain remains idle. That's why I always do crossword puzzles. I do Sudoku. I do, you know, try and read mysteries, the science fiction, trying to get my brain to not only absorb the information, but also keep synapses connected and firing, you know.
Right.
I like troubleshooting things. So keep my brain active. Sometimes I like to just listen to the music and dance and turn my brain off. Don't take me, I'm not a complete blue sock, but I like that my brain is perfectly sharp and perfectly functional. And I don't go to bed without reading at least a few pages of the book. And, you know, if it's too interesting, sometimes I don't get a lot of sleep. But again, somebody with incredible imagination writes this book. That book, when I pick it up, I'm all sparked up about it. And there's some ideas in this book, and there's some interesting things in the book that might spark my interest of going and doing research in something else. Nowadays, kids don't read. They, you know, I met somebody who's like a vice president of a company. I'm like, so what do you like to read? He's like, I don't. I watch Fox News. I'm like,
wow.
bye-bye. I'm like, yeah, that's a person my age. So this is the kind of people that run corporations. This is, you know, it's scary. You know, to find somebody to have an intelligent conversation with, it's becoming more and more scarce. People don't read. People don't, you know, they don't have hobbies.
They're not inspired and sparked up about anything,
anymore.
Right? Nothing drives them because everything is so accessible. Everything is so superficial.
Trudge through life, And I understand with some situations people have no choice, but there's always
like
something.
overwhelming jobs, right? The necessity to pay some bills, right? When the job doesn't pay enough. Well, yeah,
well,
I think.
Do you think I don't have that? I have that. I mean, I work every day. I worked since the first day I got here into the US. I started washing dishes because I barely spoke any English. I went door to door with my resume, knocked on doors. Somebody took me in to wash the dishes and make buffers with a master's degree, you know. During the time, I actually interviewed for a different job. So they took me. I was making $22,000 a year in 92, 91, 92. It's like $11 an hour. Right now, minimum wage is about 17. I understand the inflation, everything, but it was still very little money. Plus the taxes taken out, things like that. So my first place I lived in, I had a sleeping bag and one plate. That's pretty much was all my, you know, things. Again, there were things. And I have more things now, but you know what? It's still not important. I'm not... For some people to own some brand and things, they think if they have an iPhone, everybody's going to treat them differently. It's... I'm a huge proponent of Dalai Lama. I'm a big fan of his. I finally got to see His Holiness actually talk at the university graduation in San Diego a few years ago, before COVID. And one of my favorite of his sayings is that 20 years ago, we loved people and used things.
No, it's vice versa.
Now we love things and use people.
Yeah, that's pretty
So things are things. I mean, being in space, it actually put it even more perspective for me. We're space dust, less than that, in comparison to that ginormous cosmos. And, you know, I'd rather work hard and take myself on to see something amazing about this Earth, either up in the skies, on the, you know, in the mountains somewhere where I've never been, seeing one of the 7 wonders of the world I haven't seen. I haven't seen the Great Wall of China or the pyramids, the Sphinx, so that's on my next bucket list. Instead of saving money so you can buy every 6 months a new version of iPhone.
That was, you know, well
so
said and beautifully said.
Yeah. The value is the importance. You know, it's not going to make you a better person if you carry an iPhone. I mean, I have an old Samsung. I'm like, you know, I don't give it functions, it rings, I can access the information. That's it. I drive a car that's 19 years old. I like it because it's comfortable. I know every noise it makes. You know, when it breaks, I will have to buy a new car. I haven't even decided. I've never had a new car in my life. So it's a different... I'm not driven by materialistic things, but it's really sad to see that the young girls would date nowadays like super old guys because they can afford to give them like iPhones and Louboutins and Louis Vuittons, and they think that makes them a more desirable persona.
Sure, yeah.
You know what? interests people is what kind of person you are, because yeah, it doesn't matter if you like wearing brands head to toe, but then you cannot put two words together and you just
absolutely, for sure. But yet,
you
do
know.
you think that people's fascination, not to play the devil's advocate too much, but don't you also think that people's fascination with materialism and this obsession and drive for newer things also propels the progress a little bit, and that is certainly something that sort of pushes us to discover and develop and make more stuff, you know?
Well, I would never say no to the progress.
Right.
However, as I say, if that becomes your main focus of your whole life existence, that's my point.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, if I have extra money, maybe, you know, one day I'll buy one of those. But it's not my main drive. Some people are really techie, they want the latest tech gadget. That's their thing, but not because they want attention or they think that that's going to define them. That's the difference. I mean, there are some people that love super fast cars, or, you know, the newest gadget, because like the gamers, because that's something that it's their hobby. They want the fastest computer processor. They want the fastest, you know, game controller. I don't see how changing the phone every 5 minutes, just because people gonna think you're popular. That's the difference. This is the angle I'm coming from, that people think that the thing can make you a better person instead of becoming a better person, and use things as things.
Yeah.
You know, you want the newest thing?
Well, yeah, you know, I also
to.
think the why question is one of the most important questions we should always ask ourselves. So sometimes it's about asking yourself why you want that newest model of iPhone. Is it because there is a practical necessity for something like that, or is it something that you think will make you less insecure? And if it's the second option, will it really fight off your insecurity? So yeah, I think we should be more cognizant of that.
It's a superficial thing, and unfortunately right now the society is like, well, if you don't have it, and I grew up like that. I was the poor kid. I went to school, all my class, like a lot of my classmates, their parents were captains or mechanics. We grew up, you know, people who were working on ships, they had more. They had better lives. The kids were, you know, always dressed head to toe in some schwanky, you know, new piggy tails, new shoes.
Always a way
like
to excel, right? To stand out somehow.
We did wear uniforms, but at the same time, yeah, I didn't have any of that. I used to take my dad's old pants from his suits when he wore them out between the legs, and I would sew them. It created either a skirt or a new pair of pants for myself.
Wow.
So I wasn't a popular girl in school. I mean, I lived through that. That's why it's a sensitive subject, because people judged me on things I had. They didn't give a crap about me as a person. Yes, gave you a complex, of course, but I still the same person. I mean, I don't, you know, I still make my own clothes for fun. It makes me happy. And that's the big thing, you know, does that new thing make you happy? Or you just doing it because of societal pressure, or because you think the boy in school is going to like you more because you have an iPhone versus Samsung versus, you know, Nokia or something else.
Right.
It doesn't, that's not what makes you a person, is what kind of phone you carry. What makes you first person is what you have here, what you have here. And, I mean, I posted this stupid thing today. It says, like, it's a little video from a TV show. The little girl asking, like, so, the smart boys, like, the stupid boys like stupid girls. The smart boys love stupid girls. What do the smart girls get? And her father goes, cats mostly, you know? So,
it's very representative, honestly,
Yeah, I do have 2 cats, so I do fall into that category.
Cats are the best. Cats are the best.
Yes, they are. So minor rescues. But in general, I mean, my whole thing, the people, I want, like, the young girls and consider, all right, my whole life I've been told by multiple people, because they probably saw that I'm what kind of person I am. They try to bring me down so they feel better about themselves. Oh no, you stupid, don't pursue that because you have no talent. You can't. It's just, I let that get to me about my clothing design because that was kind of like my other passion. So I just kept it as for fun. So yeah, I let people, my insecurity, let it get to me. But, you know, the more I got, the older I got, the more experience in life I got, I start thinking, you know what? Why I shouldn't let other people's opinions get to me. I should just pursue my own thing and screw anything that people think. And, you know, when I finally got to that point, and it had to do with space, with other things in my life. Oh, you know, you're going to fail. You're never going to succeed. The negative, that kind of trolls, now they're internet trolls. Now they comment all this through the internet. Olden days it was in person. Tell you, oh, you're stupid, or you're ugly, or, you know, we're all human. We all want to be accepted, liked. It's a, you know, an innate thing. And especially when you're younger, I always thought, like, you know, if somebody doesn't like me, I tried so much harder to
be liked,
make them like me. But some people are just assholes. And unfortunately, I realized that later in life, not early in life. So I did have some insecurity issues. That's, you know, I think everybody does. You know, the first comment on my picture in Ukraine when my girlfriend posted that photograph, why the Zhinka so ugly? Like, you know, can we find a prettier one? And this is the guy who's like 5'2" and looks like he's pregnant, 12 months with like a baby elephant, you know, at the age of 21.
So internet has become this weird thing when all of a sudden everybody is entitled to spread their useless opinion everywhere, and that is crazy.
Well, that, because in the past, you know, you won't say something to a person because, you know, they're going to punch you in the freaking face. Now it's safe because now you can spew the garbage and the poison out. But the other side of it, the females of Ukraine, I've got so much love from women. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect my girlfriend back home to do this. I had no idea. I mean, my circle of friends is about 400 people around the world, people I keep in touch with from my Instagram. That's about it. 400. And suddenly I start getting this pretty much an overwhelming amount of messages from women saying, we're proud of you, we're supporting you, we're holding fists for you. It really took me aback. It's kind of
weren't even expecting anything like that, right?
I was definitely not expecting them. That was a huge kind of like surprise for me, and it made me feel incredible.
Well, it's first of all the right time.
I'm inspired somebody else.
And you have absolutely become the symbol of, particularly for females, for women, I believe, you know, the symbol of sticking up for your goals and dreams and achieving them eventually. So that's pretty fascinating from that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. And yeah, to take you back one more time to Odesa, because Odesa certainly occupies a special place in my heart, despite the fact that I've been there only once. I can't but ask you if you were born close to the sea, or is it somewhere distant?
About 10 blocks. I was born in the dead center of the city. It's two Carls, it's called, the corner. Karl Marx, Karl Liebknecht. So it's a very famous corner. It's like 2 blocks from Deribasovskaya Street. You know, if I go to Primorsky Boulevard, it's about 8 blocks. from the Opera House, about 6 blocks.
Oh yeah.
So
that house is
I
beautiful.
grew up in like old part of Odesa. Yeah. And
I miss that city so much. I've been there only once for relatively short period.
I do too.
So
my heart is there.
Yeah,
My heart's always going
When
to be
did you
there.
go there last time?
I was there in September of 2021. And in February, the war started. So that's the last time I saw my dad in person and my friends in person. As I say, I work full time, so I get very limited amount of vacation. So every time I got a chance, I saved enough money because it's a bit of a hike. It takes about 32 hours to 40 hours to get to Odesa from, at that point, San Diego. It takes like 3 or 4 layovers, either a bus ride, car ride, or... Yeah, so by the time I arrive, I'm like, huh? And everybody wants to see me on the first day, so usually I've learned. So the first day I just sleep, relax, and then start seeing everybody. But yeah, it's... I haven't been home, and all my friends, as I say, I keep in touch with everybody, my dad.
So so you mentioned your dad. Is he still with us?
Correct.
Yeah. So
my dad is in Odesa.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about him. Is he aware of his contribution to your dream pursuit, having been probably the very first person to plant that dream of yours, you know, in you? How does he feel about you being in space?
It's a convoluted, loaded question because I have spoken to him right after my flight. I spoke to him before the flight, but after the flight, I was able to get in touch with him. And the video wasn't working, so I couldn't see his face and I couldn't see his reaction. My stepmother wouldn't let him go to my friend's house to watch a video. She controls kind of the electronics in the house.
Right.
And painful for me because I really wanted my dad to watch it. I had a live link, my last live link. I was given 10 to send to people. So I sent it all to one of my friends in Odesa. They all got together at her house. It was like around the corner from my dad's place. So they're on Yekaterininskaya and they're on Malaya Arnautskaya, like corner. And they were waiting for him to go for his daily walk to try to grab him and take him in, but it was raining, so he didn't go outside. So afterwards, I actually spoke to him in English because didn't want the stepmom to hear or pipe in, or she's his wife, she's not my stepmother, but so I just told him, Dad, thank you for giving me this dream. I said, your child just flew to space and you went with me. And I started crying, which I'm not a crier, but it was very emotional.
I imagine. You
know, like our old school dads and moms, they would never tell us they're proud of us. They'll tell everybody else, but they would never. They say, like, you can do better.
I agree.
You can do better. I'm not sure if it's a good way of raising a child because you always strive to get your parent approval or praise.
It never stops, right, at any age.
Correct. I'm 55. I still wanted my father to tell me he's proud of me. He still didn't. I know he's going to go and tell everybody else about it.
But never to your face,
tell
right?
me. But my personal, I would like, it's something that I would love to hear at least once in my life. You know, and I told him, I'm like, Dad, your daughter made you proud. I said, it's all your fault, I said. You the one who told me those space stories when you tucked me in bed. He says, oh, I don't even remember them anymore. I said, well, I do.
Yeah.
And I told him, thank you for being a great dad, not abandoning me when my mom passed away. When I was 13, my dad stuck by my side. He supported me with everything. He gave me a choice. I wasn't raised in a stage parent household. I was never forced into ballroom dancing, music, sports, whatever. It doesn't matter what. My grandma tried. My used to be a Ukrainian ping pong champion
Wow.
when she was young. And
Our
she took
people
me,
are so talented if you think about it. So versatilely talented. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I have 2 left feet.
Yeah.
I can't walk straight without walking into something, so my nose is so big, you know. But my grandma, at the age, like after my mom passed away, at the age of 14 or 13 and a half, she decided that since I'm my mother's daughter, I inherited the thing, which I haven't got that from either of my parents. I have not got the fast twitch muscle. I was a good swimmer, but I cannot coordinate my hands, my arms, So after about 6 months of trying me going to learn ping pong, the trainer returned me to the grandmother, says she's useless. I'm tone deaf, so I can never been accepted to the medical school. My mom wanted me to play piano. They didn't want to take me because I don't have that talent either. You know, what что Бог не дал, в аптеке не купишь. And, you know, again, it's genetics. Something when the combination of genetic mutations went not the right way. I compared mine and my dad's genetics, and he's got the fast twitch muscle, which is the athletic one, and I have a slow one. The one thing I should have, you know, that's why I could never be like an elite athlete. Plus, I'm very clumsy. It's not, it's just a fact. I'm not putting myself down. I know my limitations. But at the age of 11, I kind of followed one of my friends from school. She said, oh, I'm going to apply for art school. I'm just going to go take exams. I was 11 years old. So I said, oh, I'm going to go with you. So I went in there. They say, you want to try? I'm like, sure.
At that point,
and they told me I'm accepted. I have a talent. Yeah. So they invited me to, you know, enrolled me in school. So I needed 10 rubles at the time. So I come home. My dad just got back from work. And I said, Dad, I need 10 rubles. I just got accepted into art school. My dad grabbed me. We went to the art studio, like art store right next door, like it was half a block away. He spent probably most of his paycheck buying me paints, brushes, easel, canvases. And you know what else he did? He sat and painted with me every evening. We would get to, you know, get the theme, and both of us gonna start painting, you know. Obviously, he was much better at this than I was at that age, but, you know, it's, he supported me in everything I wanted to do.
That's
he
amazing.
made me have a choice. He didn't force me into anything. He said, if you like this, you give it your 100%. If it doesn't work, then it didn't work, but at least you tried.
Amazing.
So I told him all that, and it's important to me because he raised me. I mean, he was a military man. He ended up with a, you know, with a female child, especially a teenager. He had no idea what to do with me, really. So, but he gave me a choice. He always argued with my grandmother, who was a traditionalist, who wanted me to cook, clean, you know, be capable to be married off. My dad always argued with her. So I wasn't really allowed to go in the kitchen as much as I should have been. I mean, I helped around the house, all this, but like help for the big holidays so I can cook for like an army of people for birthdays or Christmases. But my dad said, I want her to get an education. I want her to be able to be independent and not to rely on anybody. And he told me that since I was a kid. You know, one time everybody had a pair of jeans, all right? At that time, it was like the gray kind of a washed out pair of jeans. And somebody brought a pair of jeans and I really, really wanted them because I wanted to fit in. And my dad just sat me down and says, you know, that's the one time in my life, I think I was 17 or 16, and I threw a little bit of a hissy fit about it. But everybody has it and I can't. And my dad sat me down and pretty much explained to me, listen, there's like, we're not in a financial situation to do that. And this is a lesson for the rest of your life. If you really want something, you're going to work hard to get it. But nothing comes in life as free. It's not that easy. And he was right. You know, when you're a teenager, between the age of like 14 and 18, your brain's still like transitioning from a child to an adult. So that's usually the rebellious stage.
Yeah, problematic
so
age indeed.
Butting heads at the time, but you know, I cried, you know, through a hissy for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay. So grandma took me to a fabric store and bought me this really cool fabric. It was like kind of an emerald green with the black swirls on it, and it was a jean type of fabric. So I made myself a pair of really cool shorts with the suspenders, like white suspenders. Nobody had those. Everybody else wore the same pair of jeans, and I always had something unique.
Wow, yeah.
Because I made that. And that also helped with individuality, I guess. You know, not being a part of looking like everybody else with the same Louis Vuitton bag.
Right.
You know? And that's thanks to my father.
So as I assume, it's safe to assume that he has always been, if not the biggest inspiration behind a lot of your aspirations and goals, then certainly one of the biggest inspirations, right? And it's interesting how you said that they will never tell us into our faces how proud they are of ourselves. And it's certainly something to do with their upbringing, their way of lifestyle. So it's very often in actions, through actions, right? I think younger generations, a bit more modern generations, have learned a bit more how to articulate what we feel and the importance of speaking out, you know, but those guys, it's much harder for them. So you see, perhaps technology is not all that bad if it teaches us how to express our feelings and emotions in a more articulate way.
Yeah, but the respect still, in our kids, people still, they're still respectful. The parent is the, you know,
a role model in a way.
My dad never got, I think once he got called in school, and I wasn't in trouble, but I was like terrified if the teachers would call my father in school. It would be so embarrassing. So yeah, he was one of my main, like he was my rock star, and I told him that. I mean, I really wish I could have seen his face when I was talking to him, which was kind of painful. So I was talking to a blank screen, but he still responded from the other side. He kind of started laughing. And I mean, my dad holds his emotion as a military man like this. You know, it's very difficult for him to show any vulnerability. And I think I'm his vulnerability. And it's really hard. I mean, I wish he was here with me, or I was there with him. It just, you know, the spouse doesn't want to move, refuses, absolutely refuses. And I mean, I can understand, and I respect their decision because it's their choice. But I mean, it's just me and him. I mean, I have cousin, aunt, another aunt, and two cousins. So that's about the whole family. So my dad's my only like direct blood left. So I would love to see him. I would love to be near him, and I would like him to actually see my success as I share it. But again, he's not near me. So this was like the closest. I always send him like my publications, patents, whatnot. And I know from his friends, oh, your dad is so proud of you. He always talks about you. But yeah. So at least I know.
He knows, 100% he knows, you know, definitely.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I told him, like I said, thank you for raising me the way you did, and how much I appreciate it, and you've always been my hero and my rock star. I said, I'm sorry for a couple of gray hairs I gave you when I was a teenager. But everybody goes through that. Nobody's different. A lot of my friends who have single dads with daughters, I said, prepare yourself between 14 and 18. Dad dropped me 3 blocks away from school, so nobody sees me with you because it's going to be embarrassing. Yeah, that. They will call me like, you were right. I'm like, just wait until they're 18, 19. They will come back and they will thank you for being a cool parent. So knowing my own, you know, that's how it happened to me, because after I went through that, like at 18, 19, 20, 21, my dad and me, we became like best friends.
And it's only after certain stages of your life that you truly understand it, I bet, right?
Of course, when you're a kid,
but not really even a kid, but you know, it's like it takes perhaps experience rather, right? Like you must relate to certain experiences to understand what they went through. Like I clearly remember there was a period of my life when I was perhaps even a bit older than a teenager, and to the question of who my role models are, who my paragons are, I would pick up some most absurd answer, somebody off the internet, some internet personality. And it's only now, being 26 very recently, have I truly understood that my mother has always been that sort of a silent example that perhaps wasn't what I wanted her to be, but at the same time she also was in her actions, rather in her words, you know. So that's interesting. That's the stage of development as a kid, I guess.
Of course.
Right?
And it's a matter of maturity when you do realize. I mean, we're not talking about abusive parents or something, you know. There are examples. We're talking about normal parents. And, you know, I have friends who, you know, parents were, you know, beat them, and siblings would, like older siblings, hit them with a belt or things, and you know, it made them hate them instead of love them, or you know.
Well, even those experiences are somehow transformed in the brain of a child, no matter how old the child is. Even those traumatic experiences somehow sometimes find their own place. I mean, you know, this notion that parents traumatize us never on purpose. We have mostly all of us.
They don't know better.
Yeah, just they do what they can. I mean,
they don't teach you, you know, they teach you math, science, physics, literature, poetry, mathematics, astronomy, history. Nobody teaches you how to keep a household finances. They just think like, well, you know math, just go figure it out. How to budget, how to raise a child, child's development, all that. That is not a part of a school curriculum. So when you graduate, you're kind of like, go fish. You're on your own. And, you know, it's like so many my college friends, I mean, first year college, they got knocked up. They had to drop off. They just had like random unprotected sex and with a guy that they just met like 2 weeks ago. And when the kid was born, I mean, obviously at that time they have to get married, otherwise it's a scandal, and, you know, and then a year later, the guy just going there, sowing his oats, partying, sleeping with other women, bring home diseases, and she's sitting with her parents, with a baby, you know, and I've seen all that. My dad tried really hard to prevent that. One time he threatened me, you bring me a kid before you graduate, I'll kick your ass out on the street. You know, it scared the shit out of me, so yeah.
That worked out, huh?
Did work out. It's you know, our upbringing was a little different, and you know, there's goods and bads and everything, and but my dad was not the only role model I had. I haven't had a female role model. I didn't want to be a housewife. I didn't want to be like my granny, cooking, cleaning every single day, but that made her happy. This is what her life was. She loved to cook and she loved to feed people. You know what? If it was in the current day, she probably would have been a top chef.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Because she could make the most amazing meal out of chicken feet, couple of hearts, and you know, and a liver.
To make something out of nothing. That's the skill that a lot of modern people never seem
to be running in the family.
Yeah.
But she's, you know, that was her like life, and you know, and she was happy because she did something she loved. For me to go in the kitchen right now, cook a meal, I'll shoot myself first. You know, it's like, it's not my thing. I only like cooking when there's a big group of people coming over, then I would love to cook. But for everyday kind of routine thing, I'm not, I'd rather read a book. So everybody has things that make them happy. All right. And if you're lucky enough to find that, and again, if my grandma lived now and she was a young lady now, she would have been a chef. She would have been an aspiring chef, or, you know, open her own restaurant and feed people, because that's what made her happy. But again, in those days, it wasn't possible. But nowadays, the world is getting smaller. Opportunities are there. Just a matter of not giving up on them. You know, for some things, even I procrastinate, and I was like, maybe I should try it tomorrow, because I'm not sure, I'm insecure. What if you fail? I've learned one thing, that failure is not an option. Even if you fail, at least you tried. And this is something, maybe it takes me a couple of days, a month to get over that fear. But I still, even if I'm scared, I still go for it. Getting a new job, trying something you've never done. I'm scared of flying. I actually don't like flying. So for me, this was like my biggest fear factor. And, you know, it's, I have a lot of, like, I have a huge bucket list of things I really want to do.
And
places
in your ability to overcome those fears, do you think it is something that you've worked on slowly and surely, gradually over time? Or is it something that perhaps comes with genes, partially isn't controlled by you?
I mean, there's certain things. Fears are usually phobias. Fears, they're sometimes irrational. I'm terrified of, I have a phobia for cockroaches. I'm just like, I'll see a cockroach, I'll be on the table. I can handle a snake, a big spider, no problem.
Yeah, but
nothing.
Insects,
cockroach, I'll be on the table screaming.
I can get that. Yeah,
you know,
not just roaches, probably any bugs for that matter, right?
No, for me, just roaches. Other ones never bothered me. It's a cockroach. I don't know why. Maybe because when I was growing up, they're all over the place, and you know, I just grew up disgusted by them. But now it's like, it's even worse. Like if I see one, I can't even step on one. It's like, ew. And I'm not not afraid of a lot of things in as far as like living world goes. But you know, there was a tarantula in my house when I moved here. I was just sitting in the middle of a room and just took a slipper, like smacked it and done with it. It, you know, didn't even faze me. Oh, there's a tarantula, deadly tarantula sitting in my, you know, or scorpion. Sorry, it was a desert scorpion, a really poisonous one, sitting in the middle of my kitchen. I'm like, got it in a paper, took a picture of it, researched which one it was, threw it in the garbage. That's it. So, but yeah, so I don't know if phobia is like something you develop over time, something that scared you. I know why I'm afraid of flying. There was an incident one time that I kind of, you know, it wasn't, somebody scared the crap out of me. Same thing with the motorcycle. One time, the first time I've ever gotten a motorcycle, person was very responsible and decided to like impress me by getting it up like that and me falling off of it. And it's, yeah, it's not something, there's something that has to trigger it usually. But flying is just like, I don't want to die. I think I'm afraid more of death than anything else. And I don't like unexpected things. When something, you know, when you're flying and there is turbulence, you don't know it's turbulence. You're just going, and then, and gives you the adrenaline hike. But it's funny, when I was going to space, I knew exactly everything that's going to happen, every single thing, because we trained for days before that, listening to all the noises, listening to everything that's going to happen, what to expect, what your body's going to feel like. And we went over and over again until it actually solidifies in from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. They say like repetition usually takes 21 times for it to sink in permanently. And when we took off, I was zen. I was like, okay, we have 45 minutes ascent, you know, then, you know, I need to listen to the cues for the pilots for the 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, then 1 minute and 5 minutes,
so it
5
was all
seconds.
due to the thorough preparation, right? All the key.
Correct. So I knew in my mind exactly what's going to happen. So I was prepared for it. So I was not scared whatsoever. People said, like, you were probably terrified. I'm like, no. I was as zen, I think, as I've ever been on the flight of any sort.
Almost as if it felt like you're performing your life's mission, right? Why would you be nervous doing something you were made for, right? And
it wasn't. It was pretty intense training up to the point, and when I got into that spaceship, I was like, I'm ready. I know exactly what to do, exactly what's going to happen, exactly, you know. And I was like, when the mothership kind of moved forward, I was like, oh my God, it's finally happening. That's when, like, I got a little teary-eye. I didn't, like, cry, but I'm like, I got emotional,
relief.
But for the good thing, not for, like, all those years of waiting, my whole life, dreaming of it. I'm like, it's almost here, like, it's actually happening. I'm going to go to space. I'm going to see the world from up there.
So let me ask you this, though. When it was all behind you and it was all over, did you feel like you lost a dream? A dream died?
No. You know, people asking me, well, do you have depression after this now that you did this big thing? I haven't even had the chance to, like, slow down afterwards. And I've done it. It's something that's always going to be with me. I just love sharing with people that this is the view and how it changes your whole, like, perspective. I mean, they call it an overview effect. Every person has a different reaction to it. And my goal now is going to be to make sure that, you know, in 20 years' time, it becomes, you know, supporting it, being an ambassador, space ambassador, what do you call it, the space flight ambassador for the kids, that in 25 years' time, because there's a lot of other companies trying to build different technologies to do this. There's Bezos, there's Musk, there's other companies with the different approaches to take more people to space, normal people, and the kids for the future. Because you know what? After you see the Earth from up there, it puts a lot of other things on the background, puts a lot of things in perspective, like the thing that my cup's been sitting on the counter for 2 days and I'm just too lazy to wash it. And I'm like, you should do it. That becomes a nuisance. It becomes a nothing. And we're talking about, I'm just using a cup as an example, but there's other things. I'm like, oh, I gotta come back, I gotta pay bills, I gotta do this, the routine. I was dreading to come back to the routine after this, but then, you know, it's just a part of life. It means I'm living. I'm actually not existing, I'm living. I have to do this, I have to do that. My friends coming to visit, people wanted to you know, to hear about it, which is like all my friends been so supportive. And also, as I say, Ukrainian love and support was just overwhelming. I mean, yes, there's been a couple of trolls. Yes, the female collective ripped them a new one. I was very grateful for that. But even men and women, they've all reached out to me with the best kind of like wishes and things. Yes, there's been a couple of outliers, which, you know, I completely ignored and try not to let them get to me. Well, you know, I think
dreamers recognize dreamers, people who have had a slightest hint of that obsession that you have shared all your life. They understand what you mean, what you stand for, and what it really is.
Yeah. And some ladies, they were telling me that they were scared to pursue their dream, but now that they see it's possible, that they're not going to be scared anymore and they're actually going to pursue it, which you know, warmed my heart so much.
What else can you ask?
My goal was to inspire one child to believe in themselves and not to pay attention when people tell you, no, you can't. And I already spoken to like 3rd to 5th grade in one of the schools. One of my friends works as a teacher. She asked me if I can speak to the kids. Their STEM school, which is science, technology, and maths. And the kids were asking so many questions, and it was like, I think it was like 5 different or 6 different classrooms. They all went on Zoom and we were talking, and it was incredible how much excitement there was in their eyes. One of my friends' kid, he chose me as a person to talk to in school about the, you know, important person. He's only 6.5, and he chose me over the guy who created the first computer game.
Wow.
Because he said, this is so cool. My dad knows a girl astronaut. I mean, and I sent him help him with a little questionnaire for him to do a report in school.
That's nice. Yeah, that's very sweet.
You know, and that's me overachieving.
You might have been what your father was for you. You might have been that very same person for this kid, you know.
Yeah, and his dad, it's like he's a single dad raising a child. And he said, like, I always talk about you that, you know, I have a friend girl that's going to go to space. And he said that I left him like a video message, and he responded to me with the video message. And my friend Mike is like, you know what, I think you left a mark, indelible mark on the kid. Sure. Because he will remember this moment in the future, whatever happens, but he'll remember that. And my little Princess Sophia, it's my best friend's daughter, but I call her my little niece. She calls me her astro aunt now. Yeah. She's the one who inspired my kind of a speech after, because she followed kind of my footsteps in the biotech. I've always been her role model, I guess. That's what she wrote to me on the card the night before the flight.
Must have meant the whole world to become somebody's role model, huh?
Yeah, because, you know, I couldn't have children for whatever reason. It just didn't happen. I tried, believe me. I got that instead after all the fertility treatments, which is, you know, obviously not a good substitute, but I survived, and I wasn't joking when I said like that. Actually, the idea that I haven't went up yet and my dream hasn't completed yet made me fight harder. So,
so that's pretty connected. I was going to ask in the context of cancer if that's not too sensitive of a topic for you to talk. I've always wanted to ask. You know, I'm watching this show Breaking Bad. You must have seen it, I'm sure, right? You know, being a chemist, right? So.
No, I've never done it. No, don't ask. Okay, no, so I do not own a camera.
Another topic right
All right? Or a bathtub for that matter.
What kind of...
Disclosure.
Sure, yeah, a bit of a disclaimer, right? What kind of a mindset is the most prolific and productive for anybody who has been diagnosed with cancer? The way I imagine myself, had I been diagnosed with anything like that, the way I imagine myself, I would just continue doing my regular shit, you know. So, and what kind of, based on your own experience, what kind of approach is the best? Should one become especially militant to fight it off, or should one just continue doing what he would do otherwise?
Well, depends what stage of cancer you are. Sometimes you can't do things at the normal.
Okay, so you become too, you know, dysfunctional, right?
I mean, I went via radiation. First 2 weeks, I was still working out. After the 3rd week, my skin was like this color.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I couldn't touch it. I couldn't get, like, you put your hand right here and it actually meets, like, you feel like the heat coming off of you. They're pretty much cooking your tissue. So they're cooking your breast. Yeah, at that point, even staying up for more than like 3 hours a day was becoming a challenge, because it really subs. You know, when you sit in the sun for so long and you feel sleepy, So imagine that 100 times worse.
Wow.
So I still work for every single day. I only took 1 day for the surgery. I was just like in bed working on a computer. And, you know, I was diligent about putting sour cream on my skin, not like chemicals that the doctor prescribed me. I got every day. I tried to keep to the routine, but certain things that I loved doing, I couldn't do. But I substituted. And I was like, okay, this is the time to, you know, baby yourself. What I did when I went to my appointments, there was a lot of other women there waiting their turn. I used to bring big cookies, bring cookies there and tell really dirty jokes to make them laugh. Because one thing I found, first of all, the sense of humor has always been my defense mechanism. But also, I found that I was dealing with facts when the first time when I actually went to the doctor's office after they called me with the results. The nurse comes in, all in tears, trying to give me a hug, and I'm like, no, just give me the facts. What do I need to do? How I deal with that? Compartmentalize that away from everything else. And I was just going through the steps.
Yeah, right. One by one.
I mean, consider I was going through divorce at the same time, sleeping on a friend's couch at the same time. So yeah, it was, I mean, just one thing is really difficult to deal with, but when you have that to deal with, and I still managed.
So yeah, so your mindset was rather of one of fighting and resisting and being militant regarding that, right?
Correct. Correct. I mean, I still did things that made me happy, met with friends, you know, didn't try to make a big deal about it.
Were you afraid in the moment of getting diagnosed?
Well, I mean, when somebody says cancer, yeah, but again, there is so many different, I mean, I was waiting for, when they gave me the results, I knew it's not terminal, not going to beat it. The matter was if, like, the more stressful things were for about first 5 years after, not wanting it to come back. So I had 0 sugar in my life. I was, you know, militant about exercising, keeping my weight down, eating right. You know, there was like, I couldn't even afford myself an ice cream. Because sugar usually feeds cancer cells.
We're talking post surgery.
Post surgery, post radiation, and afterwards, I'm like, you know, I lived on the 3-month increments. So 3 months, I could plan for 3 months. After that, I have a doctor's appointment.
Wow.
To do analysis to check if did it come back, did it not. Then the next 3 months. Then the next 3 months.
So it was like levels in a way.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm a planner. I love to plan something for next year, things like that. You know, with the current world situation, I can't. Certain things I cannot plan. But even within the next 3 months, I always plan something, so I have something to look forward to. You know, a little trip somewhere, or going to a theater, or to the movie, or
so discovering simple pleasures, right, and being truly excited about them. And so, how long has it been since you fought it off?
It's since 2010, 15 years.
Okay.
Actually, it's 28th of this month would be exactly 15 years.
15 years, and I'm asking because I imagine for somebody who had been through it, it could have been a bit scary to once again allow yourself sugar and perhaps a little bit more, a bit lazier lifestyle. Did you manage to get rid of those fears eventually? Yeah.
Last year, definitely been eating ice cream, not exercising a lot.
Yeah, well, so it might appear as something non-important, but it's like I'm talking about fear, you know, not even fear of eating sugar, but fear of this thing return. But scientifically, it's been proven that once it doesn't return during the next 5 years, it won't ever, right?
Correct. Well, they're pushing it to 10 right now, 10. But I'm in 15. So, and I don't have any biological markers for it too. So the genetics, like another thing, now what they do, they, so there is this embryonetics here that do the genetic counseling. So the genetic counselor in the hospital takes your blood, sends it there, and they decode your whole chromosome now completely for every single marker. And there's 49 different combinations, and there is 12 really kind of dangerous markers. Some people have it, one that links to every single cancer. There's BRCA, there's, you know, there's others. So I've actually done that, 5 years ago, and I have no markers, nothing, zero. So this, our oncologist, she actually took a group of women. She's like a leading oncologist and researcher, for breast cancer. She actually was collecting women from Eastern Europe from the time when Chernobyl blew up. We're all coming up with the same type of breast cancer.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about it.
Genetic condition, without anything like that. We're all teenagers at the time, and we all got exposure. So pretty much people from Eastern Europe, women one after the other, my friends one after the other, we were like domino effect. So I was the first one out of my group to diagnose, and my friends had then her sister Koga, then others, then others, then others. And yeah, it's so, and none of us have anything in common except that. I mean, they've had kids early, they've had kids later in life. I've never had kids. We have different lifestyles. We have, you know, but the only thing we had in common is we were from Eastern Europe. So she, Dr. Kroner took kind of our whole, you know, community of Eastern European women. And that proved to be a factor, right? I mean, that's a big suspect. Okay, so okay. I mean, initially I thought she retired now. I need to look up her publications, but she was very more on the cutting edge of not amputating the breast, like certain weight limitations, the fat ratio, because cancer loves fat cells. So if it comes back, if the boob is not available, it goes and deposits somewhere else in the fatty tissues, and a lot of the time into a bone. And after that, it's terminal. So, I mean, she was, I'm very grateful to her for that, but also, you know, my own determination to beat the thing. And it's important to me, and that's why that is on my spacesuit too. Absolutely, absolutely. They initially forgot to put it on there. I made a little bit. It's interesting how you are currently wearing the exact same clothing I imagined that you wore on the travel. Well, I mean, this is my spacesuit. Right. I thought I'll put it on for sure. Yeah, it's very symbolic and beautiful. Now, on the topic of cancer, one more time, are you aware? Maybe it's a rookie question, but I'm just curious if you're aware of any cases of people who'd been diagnosed with a terminal cancer that fought it off. Does this happen? It does happen. Yeah. Depends on the stage. When you get diagnosed, right? And it depends on what type of mutation do you have, because every cancer has one too many variations. Like the breast cancer, there's 50 different freaking variations of it. It's, you know, we got off likely because we have estrogen, progesterone negative, HER2 positive, but the one that have negative estrogen and progesterone and negative HER2, triple negative, those are usually terminal because no drug's gonna bind to it and no drug's gonna, you know, keep it. And there are certain biological or national groups that have that cancer come up more than others, you know. In Black community, it's way more common than, you know, in Spanish community or in the white community.
Right. So
in Asian community has it the least. So the women from, you know, of Asian descent, they have it the least because I guess either the diet, estrogen factors, etc., genetics, it's not as common as in the other three groups. And even men get it. If it's genetic, if you have BRCA, people don't talk about it, but men do get breast cancer. So men don't think about it, but if you have somebody in your line of family that has BRCA gene, men are now encouraged to get tested. Because nobody ever give a man a mammogram. So now the science is actually in research showing all that as well. So you can, now it's actually helping because now, like, the earlier you diagnose, the easier it is to treat. Right. You know, same thing with prostate cancer. When it's still encapsulated, as soon as your PSA level go up, cut it out. Yeah, so timing is of the most importance. After it opens up, metastasizes immediately. So, as I say, there is just so many different variations, so many different mutations. We're just scratching the surface. And the only way we know how to cure it is with a big hammer. Let's do chemo. And chemo doesn't always work. There's different variations of chemo. There is a platinum therapy, there's cisplatin, carboplatin, etc. They're all different toxicity. They're all different things. My late uncle had a lung cancer that metastasized in the brain because they can't quite figure out if it started in the brain, metastasized in the lung, or the other way around. And chemo didn't do shit for him. Nothing. No, because usually how it's done nowadays, they take a biopsy, cells, grow it, and then they request... you know, it's not virogram, it's like a panel. So they grow cells, they put it in the dishes, little things, and they add different chemical agents that are chemotherapy to see which one's going to kill those cells. Oh, wow. Okay. And then they send that report back to the doctor, and the doctor then takes that to make a cocktail for the treatment. So, same thing goes with virology. There's such a thing as a virogram for, like, in HIV, for example. Same thing, the blood sent to a specific facility. They grow this patient sample, and then they check which drug works and which one they're resistant to. And that... No person the same. Yeah. That goes along with the whole bunch of repercussion on the body, I imagine, right? With all, it's very taxing, you know, simply speaking from me. So if you don't mind talking, how many chemo sessions did you undergo? I didn't. Zero. I got lucky. Okay. I got lucky. I had a partial mastectomy and I had 6 weeks of radiation therapy every day. Okay. My friends didn't get that lucky. I got mine, it was by sheer accident, because I was 41. I'm like, I don't need it. I don't have any family history, you know. I went to the doctor. She's like, well, you're kind of 41. Why don't we just send you there? And I'm glad they did, because mine did not metastasize yet. So they forgo the chemo, and I refused tamoxifen, which is a follow-up through, but that's why I was so vigilant about no sugar, no anything that could trigger it to come back. So... Right. Is there any obvious connection? Have there been any known studies that would somehow tangibly demonstrate the mind-body connection when undergoing chemotherapy, you know? It's a bit of a scattered question, I'm aware, but I just keep thinking about the mindset. For one thing, you get chemo. For one thing, it really damages your brain. You get chemo brain. You know, my best friend, I mean, they missed hers at the late second stage. So she went through hell. I mean, she would go to the store, come out, come home, and remember that she just left her bag right on a counter in the store. She has no recollection of it. Your short-term memory is so stressful to the body that your whole existence is like, your whole body is just a mess. And your brain, your main thing is, you know, you don't remember if you put your underwear on in the morning. It's that bad. So at that point, you just go through the motions. You're trying to, you know, not throw up in the car on the ride home from chemotherapy. That's why there is a communal support. That's why the women, they support each other who've been through it. There's a network that connect you to other people. Maybe they have some suggestions, but it's the worst thing to do with cancer is to fight alone and be alone. That's like the worst thing that would happen. So, and some people, like, honestly, to say in our culture, they're like, oh, I don't want anybody to know. But how are you gonna manage to get through it if you don't get the support group around it? I mean, that's another mentality of our country I don't understand. When my father had a heart attack, he had no idea what happened to him. When I finally got there, his wife called me like 3 days later. My dad was still in ICU on life support. I had no idea. I dropped everything. I was there in 18 hours.
Wow.
Pretty much I left home in 18 hours. I landed in Paris. I called. She said, he's still alive. So from Paris, I went to Kiev. I was supposed to have a ticket I bought a ticket on Mao Airlines. That was a big clusterfuck, pardon my French. Because when I went, and my friend, my college mate, he actually living in Kiev, we haven't seen each other since I left in 91. And we just 6 months reconnected before that. So he actually wanted to see me. I said, like, listen, this is happening, but I'm going to be in Kiev. I have 8-hour layover. He said, I'll come pick you up. So he picked me up. We catching up. We went just kind of like on a green zone somewhere to have lunch. And as I say, we haven't seen each other for that many years. And when he brought me back to the airport, I'm giving my documents. She's sending me my ticket. And then the next girl, next agent, she's like, everybody stop. I have VIP. So this lady just grabs my ticket out of my hand, rips it, says, sorry, we don't have any more seats on the plane.
That's insane.
So, yeah, my friend, who's very much a patriot, he wanted to take word Ukraine out of those airlines after that shit. I mean, he started a petition and everything because he witnessed all this.
That's
so
insane.
I'm like,
the ticket before your eyes.
Yeah, he says, I'm sorry, we don't have any more seats. He's got the gold ticket, like his VIP status. So I'm just standing there and I'm like, what just happened?
Wow.
I'm jet lagged. I'm stressed. I'm like, not knowing if I'm going to get there, my dad's going to be alive or not. And I'm just like, in normal airline would book you next day flight, bus, something, hotel room, nothing.
Right. Yeah. I've heard that airline having not the best reputation.
That was very embarrassing. Yeah, my friend was very embarrassed about that. But as I say, sometimes the business is not representation of the country.
Sure.
So he actually dropped everything. He called his wife. He called his parents in Odesa. He said, I'm going to be staying a night with you. I have to take Lina to Odesa. So, and he drove pretty much half the night to get me home from airport.
Yeah, that's nice.
So my dad was, thank goodness he was still alive when I got there, but I took like I was there the whole month. I dropped everything, like cold turkey, cold work. I'm like, I'm taking time off. Sorry. This is more important to me than any job, any paycheck. Anything. So, you know, it's and when I got there, my dad was still in ICU, and when they finally brought him back enough so they wheeled him out of ICU. He looks at his wife, and he turns to me, turns head away, and then his head goes like this, his eyes open like that, and he just like, and they released him from the ICU the next day into, into a room. And I remember sitting with him, because I came in the next day, like I would bring him breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She would cook, I would bring it over. He's got a scratch on his forehead and on his elbow. And I'm like, Dad, what happened? He says, I want to go home. I was like, why are they keeping me here? Nothing hurts. And I'm like, Dad, you know what happened to you, right? And he's like, no.
Wow.
I said, Dad, you had a massive heart attack. You had a blood clot. So, and he's looking at me like, I had to deal with him for the first week as I would deal with a kid, trying to slowly explain to him, because back home, people don't know the indicator for heart. Here, they teach you that from, childhood. That's the symptoms when you have a heart attack. This is the symptoms when you have a stroke. This is when you call 911. This is there. It's like when the person has cancer, everybody knows except the patient. And cancer is like one of those scary words that everybody starts panicking before. There's some cancers that are perfectly curable. There's some that are, would require certain things, but, it's difficult. In every culture, it's different.
It's very deeply connected to people's relationship generally with death, and different cultures, societies view it differently.
Yeah.
So it's always unknown.
Yeah, and it's majority, in our culture, word cancer, oh my God, that's it. You hear that word and everybody's just go like zombie. There's no reasoning with them.
Including
no
the patient, including the one befallen with cancer, right?
Yeah. And as I say, with my dad, it took me a week to try to explain to him, Dad, you had a heart attack, you can't get up. You have to call the nurse. I was trying to teach him, I'm like, if you feel this, if you feel this, if you feel this, if you feel this, just immediately push the button, pull the cord, because they wouldn't let me stay there. I had to leave the hospital at night. So,
and was his condition brought back to before receiving a heart attack? Was he kind of,
Well, I mean, he obviously had the damage. I mean, he's 86 years old, and it took quite some time. It's been almost 7 years to bring him back. I mean, his biggest thing was how come I can't carry? Because he always carries the heavy stuff. When our women go to the market, men carry. He says, I'm not a man anymore. That was his biggest thing. And then after he, got released to the house and he started slowly recovering. I mean, his heart, he still has damage, but, he walks 3 times a day around the park, around the streets if the weather allows, at least 3 times a day. He gets a lot of exercise that way, so he's still from that point of view. My friends usually videotapes from the balconies, I can see it sends me Dad's walking, looking good. So I have reports, I have spies around the neighborhood to tell me that my dad's doing okay. And I mean, I would love to see it with my own eyes, but
your
right now
condition, emotional well-being must be pretty wonky and damaged, knowing that Odesa is particularly often under Russian attacks, right? And I imagine you reading about one of those missile attacks must be quite shaken, right?
Listen, today is exactly 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, started the war. Today is exactly 2 years when I got the keys to my house in Las Vegas. I was driving to get the key from California to Nevada on this day 2 years ago. In the middle of a day, my friends start texting me, is your dad okay? Is your dad okay? And I'm like, what's going on? I'm driving. I can't look at my phone. So it just like my phone continued blowing up, both of them. I was like, what the hell? So I'm kind of like looking, I'm like, dialed a friend. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Why are you asking about my dad? And they say, well, Russia just started bombing. Odesa is under, attack. I'm having like the biggest panic attack I've ever had. I pull over in the middle of a freaking Los Angeles. That's like the biggest freeway. Traffic, horrible. And I'm shaking. I'm grabbing my phone, my hands shaking. I'm trying to call, nobody answering the phone. I am in absolute panic. Finally, my dad's wife, she answered the phone, and she's like, oh, we're okay. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, because initially, I guess they bombed the airport. The center of the city didn't get bombed, but just recently, it was, what they destroyed, like 32 UNESCO protected buildings, the science house, the church, the historical objects, things that, and that's not even the important part. It's the people, Oh, we hit the military object. Yeah. Like a place where there's no newborn baby, that's a military object, really. So, yeah, the amount of misinformation, bad lying, and things like that. And as I say, I can hear it from people say, oh, you don't believe the news, there's nothing's going on there. I'm like, I have people living there.
Oh, yeah.
They tell me what's going on. Don't tell me it's the same thing when the world is flat. I've been there, I've seen it's not. So it's, it's scary. It's frustrating that, every time you see the news, like, are they alive, or they're, one of our university professors, his son just got killed in one of those random hitting the building bombings.
Completely blind. Yeah, with no reasoning behind it.
They're just dropping whatever, whatever sticks. They don't care. Not for their people, not for our people. And it's funny, it's like, well, we're Russians, you Ukrainians. I don't have I've done my genetic testing. My dad's from Russia, my mom's from Polish Jew. But if you look at the blood, if you look at the genetic decoding, what we're all called, Belarusians, Russians, Ukrainian, Polish, Bulgarians, we're all called Broad Eastern European. We don't call Bulgarians, we don't call Russians, we don't call Ukrainians. We're all European, Eastern European. That's our genetic group. So it's heartbreaking that the brothers and sisters are killing each other. It's for what? The big question is for what? Why would you go and risk your life for what?
What do you think regarding what it's for? What's your take on it? Have you thought about it?
So that psycho has some dick power. I don't know. Doesn't get it up anymore.
How do you see this thing happening?
Hitler, obviously, from the latest interview that he gave, he compared again himself to the Hitler with Poland.
That interview was wacky. That was embarrassment. Yeah. Yeah,
but, a lot of people don't look at it as embarrassment. I mean, look at our previous commander-in-chief. Every time he opens his mouth, it's an embarrassment. But people still, half the country voting for him.
Absolutely, yes. It's interesting. That's
it's as I say, idiocracy is real, unfortunately, and
what's also pretty conspicuous all of a sudden, how Tucker Carlson was pointing people's attention to the fact that all spotlight is currently centered on Ukraine and all journalism is concentrated on Ukraine, but nobody seems to want to go to Russia and interview Putin, as if no offer has ever been given to Putin, and as if he would accept anybody's offer besides Trump's biggest journalist supporter, right? So it's pretty interesting.
Well, he's got fired from his job. That's the only thing he has.
Yeah.
He got kicked out of the Fox News, which is, you know, I actually refused an interview with them. I went with the NBC here in the US. I didn't want to go on that show.
Good, for sure.
But, you know, that's the, you know, Tucker Carlson is like, it's a tool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was chosen for a reason to be the one who gets the interview.
Yeah, but the whole thing is like people still don't understand the whole, if Trump was elected for the second term, he was supposed to pull out of NATO so Putin can invade Ukraine with no repercussions. It's still not, you know, people are in denial about that. And when he lost, Putin still went for it, but now, you know, and he threatened the nuclear war if anybody interferes with his, what was it? War games or training exercise. Yeah,
like drills.
Killing people is a training exercise. It's amazing, right? How can, and everybody goes, yes, we believe you.
Does America seem to be...
Because for years they've been brainwashed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and do you...
My own cousin put a Z in his profile. I blocked his ass.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, you're going to go to Ukraine, take a gun and go shoot your own uncle? I would if I could. I'm like, fuck you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let him
so, and believe me, there's a lot of that going on because there's some Putin sympathizers still in Ukraine. A lot of them.
Yeah, sadly, that seems to be that sort of societal cancer. You know, that's that societal cancer that runs deep.
Well, it's the same thing when people, women for Trump.
Wow,
you know, and
women
rapist and cheater and all that. But there's a whole thing of women for Trump.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
And gays for Trump. And Latinos for Trump. Every single group that he belittled, embarrassed, you know. It's a little
you know, so this actor from
it shows the level of brainwashing doesn't go only in, you know, in specific countries of the world. It's a universal thing. That's why I said education is so important because it's always been, you know, when we were growing up, the big thing was, oh, religion is poison for people. It's in some ways it is correct because you know, people used to do the big religion thing to control. It's not about your own choice, personal choice, what you want to believe. It's a matter of like trying to dumb down the population. Same thing. The worse the education is, the less people, you know, think, the more zombified they become, easier to control. Who do you think like going strap bombs to themselves? Those people never went to school. They pick you up like when you're a kid and they brainwash you and they condition you. Again, age 6 to 7.
They know what they do.
The best time to plant a bad idea into your head or a great idea to your head. So education, even here, it's kind of really went down. But there are some special STEM schools, so they do still concentrate on science, technology, maths.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. Logic, critical thinking. It's not very common nowadays.
Yeah, surely, sadly. So one more time on the topic of Ukraine before we move to the very last topic, which is the space travel itself, and we can wrap it up because I'm already stealing, I think, way too much time of yours. How do you see war ending in Ukraine?
Until the Putler is in power, and it's not just him, because looking at his face, I think he's going through chemotherapy, to be honest, because he's all bloated like that. His whole body looks like a chemo patient, to be honest. So I don't know if he's still alive, if he actually died, and that's his body double, but it's not just him. Nobody like that stands alone. There's a whole group of them. And what bugs me the most, that the small group of people controls the whole of this entire nation. You know, I mean, look at the second revolution, look at the first revolution. When people put their mind to it, they can take down the royalty.
So it also says something
military.
about Russian society as it is, right?
Well, I think it's the fear of people, you know, they're afraid because they've been scared. Same thing with the rest of the world. He's got the red button. He's got the nuclear weapon. You know what? If he's still alive and he's completely unhinged, I wouldn't let it pass him to start the Third World War. Just because he needs to compensate for his non-functional penis. You know? Because, you know, chemo should, you know, does that to people. And the age, obviously, too. You know, there's no Viagra there going to save him. But, you know, we have him, Kim Jong-un, we have Trump. You know, should I start? Do we have any women president anywhere in the world? We don't. Have you named any war that ever started by a woman? You can't. You know, two women that I've considered my role models when I was a kid. At that point, there were women that represented the country, that were, you know, the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. That's why I went into biochemistry, because she actually is a biochemist before she went a politician. And late Indira Gandhi. Those were women. Those were like a little bright star saying, you know what, women could be somebody other than a housewife in the kitchen. Not that I'm belittling any housewives, because some women, that's like my grandma. That was her life. She lived for that. My girlfriend Galka, she, all the time, it was about the husband and the kids. You know, she sees herself, this is her fulfillment. So I would never belittle anybody's life situation unless it's something that you are forced into. Because, you know, some women, it's their dream to become a mother and a wife. And that's their happy place. And that's where they flourish. But yeah, that
takes a whole lot of time in life to understand what's really yours and what's been imposed on you.
Trial and error, and you know, trying different things. You know, it's a process. And yes, you can choose not to have children. Maybe this is not your thing. It's same for men and for women. Because earlier in the century, I mean, this is, you had to do that. It's a mandatory thing. And some people, it's not their thing. That's why people grow up, like kids grow up all messed up. Because the parents never wanted them.
Right.
It's just because the society demanded that. Again, matter of choice. Choice, be able to make your own, follow your own path, and not let other people dictate how you live it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not talking about going on this, you know, serial killer spree. I'm keeping my things within the normal human parameters.
Sure, of course.
You know, if you want to be an astronaut, go be an astronaut. If you want to be a sailor, go be a sailor. If you want to climb Mount Everest, go climb Mount Everest.
Go try and
if you want to become a mother of 20 kids, do that. But don't let anybody, especially, this is like, that's why it was message for women. Don't tell men that you cannot do something because you're female. That's my biggest pet peeve, you know, other than the flat earthers. But
we're slowly getting to that as well. So how does commercial space travel first appear in your life?
It was 19 years ago, almost 20 actually, when Scale Composites won the Ansari X Prize. The first proof of concept, Spaceship One. And I got to see it in person afterwards at the Oshkosh, which is experimental aviation air show in Wisconsin. I got to trip over my foot and actually bang my forehead on it. So the foot like print of my forehead hangs in the Smithsonian Museum right now.
Wow.
On the wing of Spaceship One, you know, my other mark to my world. And I first heard about the actual spaceship company on Richard's show Rebel Billionaire. And third to the last episode, the contestants, he says, well, I'm going to start a spaceship company and need a slogan. And they were supposed to do a video and come up with the slogan. So the slogan chosen was "Space is a Virgin Territory." I still have a t-shirt with that. It was one of their first merchandise. And after that, 2 weeks later, there was an ad on the Super Bowl. It says, contact this number. Because we have a spaceship company, and Richard was in a space helmet, like proper NASA space helmet. And that was the first contact to, you know, my ex-husband was very interested. How much would it cost? So he wrote a letter to them. I didn't, because I'm
Sorry, who was that? Who wrote the letter?
My ex-husband.
Oh, okay, right.
So he was curious. And my imagination immediately, it's going to be millions of dollars, like the private flights to the spaceship, to the space station by the Russians, you know, Denis Tito, people like that, you know, the multi-millionaires. So he wrote a letter. He told them about me in the letter, saying, you know, I've been dreaming about this since I was a little kid. They return a call at 2 o'clock in the morning. A couple of weeks later, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I'm like, huh? And they're like, are you Lina? I'm like, yeah. Who is this? You know, and they're like, this is Virgin Galactic. So I was like dead asleep at the time. So by the time I woke up and like realized what's going on, they did respond to my ex-husband and told him like the price is $200,000, which is, you know, not millions. And they invited me to, they were inspired by my story, so they invited me to come for an interview to LA, to Virgin Music Building, to Records. And we went there. I spoke to this lovely lady named Susan Newsom, and she was, you know, I probably talked to her for like 3 hours. She couldn't get enough of the story, and she said, listen, we would love for you to be in the founders group, because we wanted to pick people who would be ambassadors, who would promote this, people who really love space, who really believe in this. So all I had to do is figure out how the heck am I going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, and by that time I realized I can't have kids, went through fertility treatments, whatnot, and I had about $50,000 saved for a college fund, and I took a $150,000 second mortgage on the house to pay for my ticket. So when I was in Oshkosh, I bought my flight, and that's where I met Sir Richard. There was about 8 of us, maybe, at the time, in 2005.
Who were those people?
George and Loretta Whitesides. They were supposed to be the first honeymoon couple in space. So now the kids are all grown. George was a CEO of Virgin Galactic for some time. Loretta runs Yuri's Night, which is every time in April we celebrate the first time men went to space, Yuri Gagarin. She started that years ago, so now it's celebrated all over the world. It's a big to-do, so she usually organizes one in Los Angeles, there's one in San Diego, there's one in San Francisco, there's a bunch in Europe. So if you go onto Yuri's Night, you can find something maybe in your area that people do the space enthusiasts. It's the way to connect people as well. There was Tom, who was supposed to be the first Irish to go to space. He's no longer with the program. So out of all of us on the stage there, I think there's only 3 of us who left in the founders group. There was 100 initially. And they wanted to make sure that founders are represented from global perspective, different genders, different countries.
Right.
So it was very diversified, but also, I mean, not only that, but they needed people who need to buy a ticket.
Sure.
So the founders group paid a full price to kind of start this project off the ground. So that's why we called founders.
Okay, yeah.
All our money went into, that was the development.
You literally sponsored it.
Program. Well, Richard put a lot of his own money into it. A lot.
Yeah.
For a longest time he did.
Right.
And out of his own pocket, because that was his dream as well. You know what? He could have bought a ticket to go on the space station, like Dennis Tito did, paid 20 mil, 40 mil, go fulfill his dream of a lifetime, look at the world from up there, go to space. You know what he did? He started the company that would give this opportunity to normal people.
Right. Nice.
He invested more than that into this company than just a ticket to go to the space station, most likely.
And was he in the list of people who were going to go?
He went.
Yeah.
He went. He was on the first flight.
Sure, yeah.
He's the astronaut 001. I was there. It was the first flight, and was actually during COVID.
I do remember that made a lot of noise, the news.
Yeah. He beat Bezos too, by 2 weeks.
He did it quicker.
Yeah. But, during the flight, there was like one red light indicator, so FAA wanted us to correct it, so it took a little bit of time. By the time they did white, the red light lit up, this, that, the other. I mean, it's now a commercial vehicle. Even if it's an experimental, it's still a commercial vehicle. So it falls under the jurisdiction of Flight Aviation Administration here. So they do set the rules. They have to give them the results from every flight, any deviation, anything. Like during this flight, we had a little pin. What it is, it's like the 3 pins. So when the spaceship getting under the mothership, this is kind of like there's little cups and the pins. So kind of guides it, so make sure that it's within, that it didn't miss, that the spaceship is not misaligned. So, and they're glued to the mothership. And what happened is that inside the cup, there's like a grease type of substance. So I guess because it was so cold, because it's the first like winter flight, I guess the grease got a little bit more solid and pulled the pin off. And when we got into space, it actually kind of broke off. It's a small pin. But now that they have to do the full report with the FAA and investigation and all that stuff. So, I mean, even minute things like this, they have to be investigated and reported. So usually that kind of delays certain things.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's understandable.
Yeah,
right. And the final crew consisted of how many people?
It was 4 passengers, 2 pilots of the spaceship, and 2 pilots for the mothership.
Okay, well, not that many, right? There are a lot of people have to somehow get sorted out, and some of them dropped. It's some people dropped for age reasons, health reasons, life situations. I mean, it has been a long wait. There's 47 of us left in the founders group. 47. So 47 people stuck around for that long because we believe in the dream. We believe in, we share the same dreams. 47, right? And were there a few sort of journeys, or was there only one and only journey included with you on board?
No. So I'm an astronaut number 23, but in the founders roster, I am number 7.
It's a lucky number.
So the first 2 flights had they've had 3 people each. From the founders. Then Katie went because Katie couldn't go on the second flight with Namir and Trevor. So Katie got moved into a commercial flight after. She went with Kelly and Steve. They did the research. They hired Virgin Galactic to do a research flight for microgravity for NASA research. And then Katie went with them, so I'm 8th in... like 7th in the founder group, 8th in our, or 9th in our astronaut roster, because John Goodwin went in the first flight with the 2 Caribbean ladies who raised a lot of money for charity. So there was kind of like an award for them.
And what was the pause in between those flights? What was the pause in between the flights?
It was about a month.
Yeah, from each, right?
So they went first in September, then the second one went in October, then the next one went in November. I was supposed to be on December flight, but then the ship needed annual maintenance, so they moved it into January.
Right, and to make it clear, you bought the ticket in
2005
and 2023, 24, it became reality.
24.
Yeah, 2024.
Was worth the wait, every second of it.
I bet.
I mean, just being involved with the development of it, with, you know, I remember when we went to see when the mothership was ready, when when they released the Spaceship 2. Then there was an accident, then they had to build the Unity. Stephen Hawking named the Unity. He was supposed to be at that unveiling event. He unfortunately, health-wise, couldn't make it. It's like one thing that I've just really regret never being able to meet the man, because I think he's just an absolute genius. That would have been like the biggest honor, meeting Stephen Hawking. Like the biggest brain in the world.
Yeah.
You know, he was supposed to go too. They were working on designing him a pressurization suit that would keep the blood flowing into his head. But he did get the chance to do the zero-G gravity flight. For a person who confined to the wheelchair.
Right, must have been big.
We have a couple of them actually in our astronaut community. That ability of actually to move. It's, that's like the biggest thing people don't understand. Comments, stupid, oh, your stock is dropping. You're more and you're missing the whole point. So, if you're, that's all you're worried about, sell the stock, go buy something else. It's, as I say, COVID, economical situation right now did affect quite a lot. So the next generation of the spaceship, it will be carrying 6 passengers and 2 pilots. They call Delta ships, so they actually start building them right now, and those going to be flying a lot more often.
Also by Richard.
And they will be carrying 6 passengers.
Also by Richard, right? That's being developed also by him.
Correct. So we're anticipating that those going to start flying in about 2 years.
What is the reason that Virgin Galactic got closed? Is it due to financial reasons?
Well, they're not closed. You might be confusing them with the Virgin Orbit, which were 2 completely separate companies. So when Virgin Orbit had to declare the bankruptcy, that was the satellite company. They defected, obviously, Virgin Galactic, because people just not seeing the difference. They're two completely separate entities. Virgin Galactic is still operational perfectly. People are still there. Engineers are still there. They're actually hiring. For engineering position to help build the deltas.
Wow, nice. That's great. Great to know. Okay, so to the thing itself, how long did it take from taking off to landing, if I can primitively call it a landing? How long did that whole experience last?
Well, it was about an hour and 30 minutes. It varies, hour 45, hour 30, depends on the weather conditions too. Because if it takes the spaceship a couple of more iterations before they land, we had on the first go, we landed. So it took us about 45 minutes to get up there to the release point. From the release point, when the spaceship separated, we went for about, burn was about 1 minute 09 seconds. The alpha in the band was at 280,000 feet.
What's that in kilometers, if you don't mind?
So the total, we were at apogee at 291,300, so kilometers was 88.2. 280 is probably like around 88 kilometers, because we're still like the rocket cuts off. So Earth is here, we're still going up, the rocket shuts off, that's when we hit that 0G, but the rocket's still going by inertia up. So when it reaches the apogee, it's kind of like goes upside down, which was the weirdest thing because it didn't really click to me until about a week ago. I was actually hanging my head down, my feet up, looking at the Earth through the roof of a spaceship, but my mind just thought like, oh, there's Earth right there.
Wow.
It didn't even... And you see, this is like I came back from the flight and straight into work, and I didn't have time to sit and decompress and think about it. And yeah, it just like hit me like a week ago. I'm like, I was talking to somebody, and I'm like, shit, I was actually upside down.
So
I was actually like that way, looking because the Earth was underneath, and my feet were in the ceiling, but doesn't look. I'm just hanging there. That's the kind of a fun part about the 0G, but you don't really feel anything. I thought it would be like when I was training on the aerobatic flight with CJ, when you go drop, you get this feeling in there. So I thought that's what 0G going to be feeling like. It doesn't feel like anything.
Really?
You're just there. Yeah, it's like, yeah, your feet don't touch the ground. Yes, you're kind of moving. You can push yourself. But it wasn't like this big revelation for me. Revelation was the view. I wish I didn't unstrap. I wish I just stayed and looked. So we got there. So at about 1.09, we're going through the motion of upside down. Then the ship actually start turning and comes back into a descent configuration. That whole point from the moment we unstrapped until we were told 1G, it was about 3 minutes. We stayed there probably the longest. We hit the highest apogee of all previous flights, which is 55.2 kilometers or 55.2 miles or 88.2 kilometers. And in feet, they usually measure it in feet, so it's 291,300. And so that whole process of, I mean, honestly, it felt like I was there for like just a split second because my mind just could not comprehend what I was looking at.
So what, if I know it's a troubling question to do your best to put it in words, but looking down on Earth from up there, what was it like?
Okay, I wish every person in the world can see that. Even the dictators, because you know what? It's so fragile from there.
Wow.
It's like, I mean, when I was starting strapping, I'm like looking out of the window. We're still going up. Earth is right there. So I turning and I see a black void. Like there's nothing there. Just blacker than black. It's like this infinite amount of blackness. And then I keep turning my head and I see the curvature of the earth under my tail.
For the first time. Such a anticipated moment, right?
And I freeze up. I mean, everybody is like, your face on the pictures, you were like... I look completely stunned. I thought I was there for maybe 3 seconds. Apparently I was sitting there for the whole minute. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. The view was just... The earth glowed. Okay? In this absolute vastness of black. The earth, like... Because sun was up behind us. And it's obviously emitting the sun rays onto the atmosphere. And some of it actually deflects. But it looked like this little light when you live on a child's
almost
side
as if
table.
a baby, I was going to say, right? Like a baby.
Yeah, one of those like dim, matte, not bright, but warm glow.
Right.
That's what Earth looked like.
Wow.
Like it looked like it glowed. And the edge of it, on all the pictures you see, it's kind of dispersed. You know, it's like fuzzy.
Yeah, blurry.
It's you know, and it was so sharp. I mean, seriously, it looks like somebody took scissors, cut the stencil of the earth, and then put it onto black. It was just this razor-sharp edge between the atmosphere and the black. There was no fuzzy. No, it was this bright blue line, and then it was black. And that's what shocked me, because I was expecting to see the fuzzy.
Why
Even
do you
on the
think it's
cameras,
portrayed
videos,
like that in videos and films? Why is the horizon?
It doesn't look like it, right? If you really... I mean, it's still some sort of a dispersion or reflection from the atmosphere, but with your own eye...
Totally much more defined, much more high definition, right? Sharper.
It's not just that, it's the edge. The edge is like just... It's there and then there is not. There's no fuzzy. There is no any kind of like softness to that edge. In one picture, you can almost see the blue, but through the cameras that we had all over the spaceship. But I mean, I finished art school. I cannot describe the color.
Wow.
It's a mixture between cerulean, the Caribbean Sea, and it was glowing. So it was just, it's not just like when you look at the sky. It was like emitting that blue from there. You know, I ask everybody, like, what did it feel like? And people say, I can't describe it. I can't describe it. So I was just taking it all in, because I wanted to print that into my visual, complete visual memory.
The highlight of your life, pretty much, right?
It was the best view I've ever seen.
Oh, I bet. Undeniably, for sure.
I mean, and I can tell you that just looking at that, and it was like I finally thinking, like, I'm completely ignoring, like, they say, like, welcome to space. I kind of somewhere in the background of my head hear it. I'm like, yay. Keep looking. We start flipping. So the earth went from here into the top part of the window. I'm stuck to the window. I'm looking. I'm kind of like one way out of the chair, but I'm like, I'm not moving. I was there for like a minute, maybe 45 seconds. Then I'm like, okay, I got to try the weightlessness because everybody talks about it. I got off my chair. Plus Robbie was like in the front doing the trips, and he's a tall dude. So he almost hit me with his legs. So I'm kind of like, okay, I better move behind my chair. I start moving and I'm looking up. I see the earth. I see the desert. I see the colors there, but it's like individual, like just the spots on the ground, not the edge. I'm like, okay, where's the nearest window? Screw this. I'm like, I'm okay. I tried it. It's not that feeling.
Right.
I'm like, where's the nearest illuminator? So as soon as I've done that, I'm like, okay, I want to continue looking. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to start descending soon.
Yeah.
I start feeling the ship moving because I kind of like went sideways. So I get myself into the chair. I'm still holding and still looking because now the Earth is like rotating. Earth is now here again. And now we're like in this position. So Earth is like in a different position of the window. And then I'm like, should I need to go and strap in because I don't want to be laying on the floor on a re-entry, because if you don't, for some reason, you sit your ass down on the floor and you hold on to something because we're going through the Z's.
Was this ship, this capsule, was it spacious? Enough space?
Yeah. It's pretty decent size. I mean, consider like three of us were, me and Neil were about the same size, but Robbie and Franz, they were like, Robbie's very tall and Franz is kind of a little bit more on the shorter side. So, but they're all like within their little space. But on this one, there was a little bit back seat, kind of back area because there was no third row of seats. So that's, I think, I was
in the moment.
We got lucky because we had a little bit more space over there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to tell you, I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I see on the video that I bump into Neil with the back, like with the parachute.
Yeah, you didn't notice.
Robbie almost hits me with his legs. I am so like mesmerized by the view. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. It's just in my head. There's a countdown. Okay, I should probably get back to my seat because we're going to start descending and I need to be strapped in before the pilots can say 1G because I've been having like some issues, like just dexterity and old age. I thinking like, okay, I'm going to strap in and just continue looking. So I start strapping myself in, and one strap I'm like, and I'm still like staring at the window, but then I hear 1G and I should have like sat like this with my eyes to the window, but I turned my head because I needed to put the last strap in, last click. And that's when we start like dropping. And I mean, by that time you have to go 1G, you do anti-gravitational maneuver because then you start experiencing the Z forces. That's when your blood goes into your butt and you just... It's not easy. The G-forces were challenging, but doable. So, and I stopped looking at Robbie's chair instead of looking out at the window. But after the Z's hit, you do not want to move your head.
Really?
Because then you're gonna
throw up.
It's not, you don't want to, like, you have to be in a specific gravitational force. You have to hold the position, your head, your eyes. Because if you start moving your head around, that's when people usually get sick.
Right.
That's when they experience disorientation. That's when they,
I can attest to that. My vestibular apparatus is pretty horrible. That's one strategy that I adopt when being on a bus. I don't look around too much. I can't even afford myself looking on the phone because my vestibular apparatus sucks. So I just stare in one spot through the window to make it fix.
Yeah, well, we had little pills for just in case somebody does get motion sickness. Pop the pill. It's an emergency thing. Melts on your stomach, prevents you from, messing things up for everybody else. We have a little bag in the pocket to throw up in, special space bag, the pill, the water bottle. I mean, we were equipped. So the spacesuit, we can see like it has different pockets, like all the stuff like goes in here for microphone. Here's a message from Stephen Hawking.
And what's that say?
Here, I'll read it for you. And my eyes are like taking more and more passengers out into space will enable them and us to look both outwards and back, but with a fresh perspective in both directions. So that's the message from Stephen Hawking.
Sounds like him. I mean, something that he would have come up with. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and then we have obviously, you know, the like pockets. So here was all the photographs and the flag. In this one, I had the, this one was supposed to be empty, but I had my gnome stashed in there. There's more on the calves as well for like the GPS tracking for, you know, there's different pockets
for
around the
different
whole
case scenarios.
spacesuit. We had the comms, we had, you know, so comms were in this pocket. So if you need to talk to a pilot, you would have to, you know, push the button. You can do it through a suit to tell them something, you know. We were very well prepared.
Yes,
I mean, they
imagine.
trained us. We were well prepared. I mean, my partner. So we were like Robbie and Franz were in the front. So they were like the row one, we're the row two. So we had to partner up and train with each other because before the takeoff or the landing, you have to keep an eye on your partner, make sure they're okay. If something's happening, immediately tell the pilots. You know, there was a lot of you know, things we were trained for. So, but we all went, as I say, our flight probably was the went without the hitch, was the easiest flight. So when we start coming back, like down, which is pretty much falling, then the gravity starts pulling you and you're going faster and faster and faster. And pilots go 100, 90, 80, 70 feet, 1,000 feet. 60, 50, and then you like suddenly slowing down. So this gravitational force lifts, you like relax, but then the whole spaceship, like it's kind of like entering atmosphere, so it wiggles. It's not shaking, nothing. It wiggles kind of like sideways, you know, because the feathers are up still. So it's in this configuration, it's kind of sinking into the atmosphere. So it's trying to find when you're out of the atmosphere, it's like a free fall. You don't shake, nothing's happening. When you hit the density, so when you hit down to, you know, I think it was like 37,000, I believe, something 40 to 37,000. That's when they lock the wings. So that's when the wings come down, the feather, they come down, they become a glider. So after they lock, what they do, they kind of dip the nose in, face down. So you get that feeling. And they position it for the landing. So they move, because there's still like the little thrusters in the wings and stuff. So that's how they can move. There's no engine, but there's little puffs of air, I guess, that would come out and touch and wiggle the ship in space, like in the position. So, and then we came and like, you know, after it did that, then it's like leveled out in the direction on the proper, you know, path. And then we start like gliding down. And as I say, the weather condition was so beautiful that they landed us on the first. Usually, if it's not as good, I think they do like an extra loop to adjust so they exactly perfectly on the runway. So, and,
but in your case, everything went as perfectly as good, right? In your case, was there any problem with other flights, with other passengers?
Not that I know. I think only one person took the anti-vomit pill just as a precaution, but that's
as bad as it goes, right? Which is pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, that's why there's doctors there, so they do offer the anti-nausea pill or anti-motion sickness pill, and it's not Dramamine, it's something that the astronauts take. Actually,
that's something that I take when my bus travels.
But it makes you dizzy afterwards, kind of sleepy. That's how I reacted to it. I wanted to try it just in case, but before the aerobatic flight, I took it, and after the flight, I got like extremely sleepy. kind of like
That
almost
thing
dizzy.
was strong, I bet.
Yeah. So, and no, I don't have motion sickness. I'm lucky that way. But even if in the bus or in something motion, if it goes to the Y, to the ears, that's what makes you sick. That's why on the boat, because you go, you're not just going up, down, like here or here. Those are tolerable, but it's the Y in your ears. So, because when you go that way, that's when your body is not used to. This is when you get the motion sickness.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah. So on the profile on the flight, we went straight up, down. So,
and so I'm sorry to get back to that motion sickness. Would that possibly mean that if I want to sort of preserve myself from getting sick like a dog on a bus, I have to minimize this Y movement, right?
Correct.
And I gotta keep myself stable.
And keep your eyes stable.
Yeah.
You know, in Odesa, here as well, when you're on the water, if you start getting fully motion sickness, your eyes find the horizon. And you keep your eyes on the horizon. You don't move it, and it goes away. It's an old trick, but as I say, your brain has to level where you are. But when you're like looking all over and your head is down, and your head is down, you getting pressure that way because the bus is moving. Or that's why, like, so a lot of people don't want to sit backwards on the bus. Some people just have not enough hairs or really liquefy inner ear fluid, or not enough in ear fluid. So the Dramamine, actually, what it does, it solidifies it, so it doesn't slosh in there too much.
Wow,
that's why before the flights, before G-force training, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. Because what it does, it actually kind of like makes it less viscous. So yeah.
Wow.
It's
now once again, while you're up there and you're looking at this apparently unforgettable, unfathomable view, did you maybe have that sort of a feeling that one would get on top of a high mountain, how unimportant things are and how kind of tiny and minuscule you are, right? Is that what you experienced?
Oh, yeah, I told you from very first words I said, I feel way more humble now. I'm not a very, person that thinks a lot of myself, but it even brought me even closer to Earth from the point of, as I say, overview effect. Makes everything in your life insignificant. I mean, in view of all that, you like, my problems are nothing. You know, in the grand scheme of things, it's, but you know, one thing as another thing that made me feel, you know, some of my problems, I stress about some mundane things, you know, like, oh, I didn't do my laundry today, and I stress about it, and I'm like, you know what, can wait till tomorrow. But what hit me the most is, like, I wanted to pass the message on to, you know, the dictators of this world. We're all on the same bloody ship, Earth. Same one. You kill it, you go down with it. That little thing of atmosphere, if you blow a nuclear weapon, it's going to disappear. And all of us are going to be gone. Including them. You know, we're in the same ship. And that ship looks so fragile,
gentle,
delicate against that big black void. It's no hitchhiking's gonna save you there. I know it's one of my favorite books, but it's not gonna do it. And it's very easy to destroy that. That's all, like, I mean, compared to the rest of the Earth, like the sliver, I mean, like a little blue thread. That's all that protects us. So, as I say, the more people can see it from up there,
the better.
it might change the future if we live long enough for everybody to go and look.
Wow.
But I mean, I think we should send a couple of those like big flat earthers up there. They're still going to deny it.
I wonder if any of them has ever been there, though. I wonder if they have ever gathered any funds and went up there. None of them.
No, they don't want to. They want to live in the stupidity because not everybody can comprehend the enormity of space. They've centered their whole
personality around this denial. And if somebody legitimately, I think offers like that have been made, but they have become so comfortable in this bubble, that it's,
Oh, it's not even that. I'm just going to grab a bottle of water.
Okay.
It's the matter of, I think they don't want to realize that they lie to themselves. They prefer living in a lie. It's another way of psychological kind of self-preservation, I would say, because the less I know, the better off I am. It's not my, my personal thing is like, well, I'm just going to deny it, because that way I don't have to face the reality.
A bit childish approach. Now, did you become at knives with flat earthers long before you actually went up there, or?
Oh, hell yeah. I can't stand idiots. I mean, you know what I told them? Every time they're like, start harassing me, I said, why don't you do me a favor, go to the end of the flat earth, jump off, and do a genetic fund or genetic pool a favor.
Yeah, sure. Do not, garbage, the humankind.
And they don't listen to the reason, and that's the whole thing. I mean, they won't do the science, they won't do... The guy can't even spell correctly. He can't even speak space. He spelled it as cosmos with the I said, did you even finish school? They lied to us in school. He's got 112,000 followers. The guy's a complete moron. And
have you been blamed to be the government shill or an actress? Have you heard shit like that in your address?
No, but one of my friends said, whatever you do not look at the Russian Telegram because there's so much nasty shit there that you don't want to see it. Richard's PR person actually told me, you know what, I tell Richard never read the comments because he gets upset about it. And she told me please try to avoid reading comments. I mean, I'm lucky. I've only had a couple of nasty comments, but obviously on the Russian one, it's way worse.
Sure.
But I don't even have Telegram.
Okay, good for you.
So,
good for you.
Yeah. I'm enough that on my Instagram, somebody told me why they send an ugly one in. Another guy, what the hell he sent to me?
Well, usually people who have been up there, they get blamed by flat earther for being the government agent, the agent of spreading the government propaganda that's supposed to control. And so, every time a flat earther, that's one fascinating thing that I've noticed personally, every time a flat earther is confronted by the question why the government would even do something like that, they always come up with the answer to keep us on this the disk, to keep us on the disk so that we do not go and explore. And that to me just appears like a very logical proposition, to keep us on the disk so that we don't fall
from what?
Off,
exploring what? Sit on a plane, go around the world, you moron.
Yeah, but what? In their information,
basement, live. It's I cannot it's this. There's this funny show on Netflix. I don't know if you ever watch Netflix called Inside Job. It's a cartoon. 6th episode is about the lunar landing conspiracy and the flat earthers. So they take a piss on all the conspiracy theories that are out there. So the 6th episode of the first season is about the flat earthers. and how the world's controlled by the dark state and the government and all this stuff. You know what my own aunt said? Well, people called me and asked how much Ukraine paid you to fly with the flag. I'm like, are they fucking crazy? I'm like, people don't understand, because people who sit in their in their little bubble and always afraid to look after, they could not understand that other people actually get out of that bubble and they go and explore the world. I mean, Robbie climbed Mount Everest. Fran's been on 7 continents. You know, Neil is an experienced pilot, 40 years. My previous flights, you know, Namir is the first Pakistani woman, first Pakistani person to ever go into space, because they don't have a space program. I mean, John Goodman, he has Parkinson's. He's an Olympian. A person with Parkinson's got to go to space. Wow. My friend Inami, he doesn't have a leg. He's going to fly in space with prosthesis. First person with prosthesis be in space. We have people from, you know, with conditions, people in wheelchairs, people post, you know, they're regular people. None of them are government. And this is what those people have no fucking idea, that, yes, there's now, I'm in the percentile of 0.1% less than that in 1 billion of population who actually got to go and see the world from up there. And it's, why didn't you bring the phone? Because under those G forces, this is gonna crack. That's why we don't allow some models of those phones even in a commercial airline, because they tend to catch fire in a battery, in a lithium battery. Yes, I'm not taking an explosive bomb with me on the plane. Plus, that's why all the cameras were up there.
Sure,
you know,
yeah. Why would you?
Listen.
Yeah.
And another thing, I can go and like take a picture of this and look at you like that, and this is going to be completely different than this.
Yeah.
Because this connects to my brain directly. I don't have a shield in front of me. So, and people are just sometimes, and that's another big indication that our educational system is like falling apart around the world, and people are homeschooling their kids, and they're teaching them, you know, all kinds of, you know, things that they believe in, but not what the educational system actually trying to teach
Useless. Yeah.
Correct. You know, those are the kind of people, the flat earthers, the ones that homeschool their kids, they're non-vaccinated, they're against science, against the world, and they're breeding like in rabbits. Intelligent people maybe have 1 or 2 children. They have like 300 of them running around with no choice for the future, for scholars to school, for nice clothes, for anything except becoming, you know, another dumbass in a cog of, you know,
wearing a MAGA cap.
They're the ones who are going to be in the government cog, because they're going to have to be forced to join the military to pay for their schooling or something, or, you know, it's as I say, the movie Idiocracy is one of my favorite movies still to quote out of, because it's such a representation of a current society, especially at the very beginning. I'm glad that Darwinism still exists, and stupid people sometimes have a smart child.
Right.
But again, if you take that child away and actually give him proper education, could be next Einstein. So genetics does have its way of
keeping things under control, right?
Oh,
so
absolutely,
does the planet.
Yeah. Correct it.
Right.
There's correction.
But so, do you think we're alone in the universe? Do you think we're alone in the universe?
Hell no.
No.
Hell no, we're not alone. It's going to be such an arrogant statement. I mean, we're just one universe. There's gazillion of them. I mean, we are within our universe. We're right now in this green belt because it's a spiral. We are in the prosperity area. So here it's prone to developer, like life, any sort of life, whatever it is. But then when we're going to get moved into a kind of a band where it becomes inhabitable, and, you know, obviously the Earth is going to end at some point, the sun's going to end at some point. I hope by that time the humanity will be able to go
out
towards back to the beginning of the green zone, pick a nice planet, settle in on there, you know. But we're definitely not alone. We're not the first, we're not the last. You know, we're not that special.
When you were
and you
up
know
there,
what, in the vastness of the universe, it's arrogancy.
Right.
It's arrogancy to think we're flat under some cupola. You're not thinking we're like some biological experiment of some superior civilization. Now we're going to go there. You know, the flying spaghetti monster, the, you know, the...
So what have you ever heard about this proposition that the reason why humanity has always been so magnetized and attracted by the space is because when we look up there, we are reminisce about our home and we just want to return, you know, so like...
Could be.
Yeah, so we...
I have no proof or disproof in there. And
that
so,
just sounds beautiful,
you know,
like a theory, you know, it's a bit of romantic
yeah, and as
theory.
I say, we could be born, you know, that science fiction movie,
Interstellar?
No, the other one, the one with the aliens.
Probably Alien, maybe Alien.
Leading on
Prometheus. Oh, that movie was so good. So good. One of the best. Oh my God. Creepy and good at the same time.
Yeah.
It's crazy how many things he got, like, and by getting how many things he proposed that would make perfect sense once they get confirmed, if they get confirmed. Wow.
Well, as I say, that's why people need to go to school. That's why people need to study. That's why archaeology is great. That's why we need to go to Atlantis. Yes, it's unfortunate that the submarine imploded. We lost an amazing human on it. Hamish, he was an explorer. It's a tragic what happened, but it still doesn't stop from developing a technology. I mean, just to explore the ocean, the floor of the ocean, the life forms there, that we might never, you know, develop a robot to go down there if you don't want to get the humans. Technology is getting up there. You know, somebody developed this submarine. Yes, it had a lot of successful dives. Yes, unfortunate what happened. We're all still mourning for the people lost, because they were explorers, they were pioneers, they were, you know, you know, I really hope there's going to be some interesting data from the moon, from Odysseus. Really can't wait to see that. I mean, if you can see the difference from the previous technology of early photographs of space now to the Hubble telescope, taking pictures of galaxies that are black holes, incredible, right? Some planets that actually do emit light, some planets that they think are just like Earth as far as the atmosphere, as far as the, you know.
So you do think that we are relocating at one point?
I mean, we could have developed here because somebody, you know, something deposited on Earth and went from there, because the cradle of life technically is in South Africa. That's what people say life is. I mean, all the indicators, that's where it's originated from. Could have been the Big Bang. I mean, could have been a combination of things. Could have been an alien spacecraft crashing and some of their DNA is spreading. We have two ways of development of human race.
Which of those theories appeals the most? Which of those theories appeals to you personally the most? Which one of them sounds the most exciting? If you allow yourself to be a bit unreasonable, perhaps.
I would say
alien ones.
I would say we're like a giant laboratory, you know, like you have a little ant thing.
Yeah, and heal, and somebody's
I mean,
observing.
I'm a big believer in evolution. But, you know, if carbon life form could have been, you know, could have been on Mars and they moved to Earth, could have been, you know, we don't know. I mean, there's still a lot of mysteries on this Earth that people still finding some interesting relics and cave paintings of people with weird heads, and you know, could have been.
And when you were up there, being up there, did you perhaps for a fraction of a second experience this undeniable feeling of being in presence of something else? Maybe for just a... No, you weren't. You didn't.
I did not have any kind of like religious experience, or didn't see a man sitting on a cloud. I didn't see the dome that covers our flat Earth. You know, we would have shattered that, by the way we went. No, I didn't get that. I know some people do. I didn't experience that. What I experienced is a complete awe of the fragility of the Earth.
Beautiful.
And
nice.
it was, I can't, I mean, on one picture, like that blue is captured like as close to it, but it's, I still like, I can't describe that color. I'm looking at everything, like I have blue things around my desk right
remind
now,
of what that was, right?
And I can't. It's not quite this color. No, it's not quite this color. It's not quite this. I mean, like this, but glowing.
Right.
You know,
right,
maybe if
right.
I put a light behind it, it might kind of
almost magically unreal, right?
touch, like, you know, like you see how it's like changes color. Something like that. But it was like multi layers, and it was so vivid because there was no filter in between. There was no pollution. There was no air. There was no nothing. It's like a straight shot to it. So,
last question. In the light of your experience, are you taking the typical scientific view on what happens to us after we die? And has your travel up there changed your stance on what happens after we die?
As I say, I'm not a believer in hell and heaven. I do believe that energy doesn't go
nowhere,
just goes somewhere. When my mother passed away, I woke up from the jolt from the bed, and I ended up on the floor, about a meter from the bed. I was a little child, but the energy went somewhere. I'm, you know, might go into trees, might go into other people. People, when they say, like, when somebody close to you dies, you feel it. It's almost like their energy like gets transferred to you, some bonds, some...
Sometimes I believe it might represent itself in some mysterious occurrences, like some weird sounds.
Or the mental thing is... I have this funny cat outside. It's doing something. I don't know what it's doing.
Well, they're everywhere.
No, it's just like doing the rollies. It's a neighbor's cat just jumped over my fence. I don't know. I mean, you would want to believe that you become something, that you reincarnate. Of course, it's a safe thing instead of going into a black void. You know, that you will get recycled somehow. That's why a lot of people want to be buried with a tree on top of them. So you become a tree, and then somehow you perpetuate in life. I don't know.
That's the
I mean,
best
this
answer.
is the kind of like ages-old question, but I don't fool myself that there's going to be hell or heaven. There's no such place as either of them. Didn't see any up there.
Right.
But as far as the energy, maybe my energy is going to go somewhere and give life to something else. That's how you pass things, you know. Your body, nutrients, feed the grass or tree, or, you know, and then that tree gets eaten by an animal, you know, so I believe in the circle of life. I'm a scientist, so, but I know a lot of scientists who are also religious and who do believe in, you know, the reincarnation, or in, you know, if it makes your mind to be more calm and less afraid of dying. I don't judge people on that. It's their personal beliefs. My personal belief, you know, shit happens, you know. And I came to terms even before my flight. I was like, I have all my affairs in order. If something happens, I've at least seen the...
So, and did you have this sort of a fatalistic stance sometimes before the beginning of it? Did you have to psychologically let everything go and become at peace with whatever happens?
I was panicking the week before because I had to, as I say, do my living will. I had to do the, you know, put all the affairs in order in case something. After I was done with that, because I don't want to leave my friends and family with the burden of digging through the shit after if I'm gone. I mean, I could be gone, like I can walk outside and the car could hit me. It's not about that. It's I don't want the loved ones to deal with crap, you know. So I kind of put all the affairs in order in case something happens. You know, I fly for work all the time. I mean, look what happened on Alaska Airlines. The freaking door flew out. You know, this old lady thought that that's going to happen when she left the house. No. So, yeah, I don't put myself in a unnecessary situation that would be happening, but, you know, when it's your time, it's your time. That I believe 100%, you know. I'm a big fan of Master and Margarita and Anushka spilling the oil. Yeah, it's just, the brick just doesn't fall on somebody's head just because, you know, there's always a reason.
On that beautiful quote, I think it's difficult to come up with a better finish of such a magnificently interesting and lovely podcast. It is admittedly the longest podcast I've ever done, and certainly undeniably it's the most interesting podcast, thanks to you, for which I'm endlessly forever grateful. Thank you very much. As a way of saying thank you, I would dare to recommend you an interesting book, which I've been thinking about during whole 3 hours of this podcast. You might have heard about this, arguably one of the best Ukrainian fiction author, Max Kidruk. He's really big in Ukraine. Many people call him Ukrainian Stephen King. And currently I'm going through probably his biggest books called Colonia, you know, and it's about futuristic Earth and what happens to humanity after colonizing Mars. And interestingly, Ukrainian nation is one of the most advanced on Mars. And I believe, you know, if Max Kidruk had known about you, he would have created a lot of characters of Colonia of you, you know, because you basically come through the pages of that book, you know, and it's pretty representative.
I would love to read that.
Yes, please get that book.
If you can send me the link.
Oh, I absolutely will, in any shape or form, whether it be an ebook or a paper book. Maybe you can come across Max Kidruk in some of the American bookstores. It's you will fall in love with this book, and it's written about you, for you, precisely, you know.
I'm more related to the Heinlein, Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Oh, wow.
And
nice.
Stranger in a Strange Land.
Man, Stranger in a Strange Land was beautiful. I read it many years ago. I don't know if I understood it.
That's all.
You know.
I don't know if you've seen the pictures. I put like a little challenge. I took little flashcards. I wrote on them. And it was a reference to 4 books that did kind of had an effect on me as a science fiction book writing, but also somewhere where I can actually take something that makes the book really recognizable. And I put it up, and only one person was able to guess all 4 books. So Igraki was one of them. That was like a challenge for people. 42 and me holding a towel was easier. 451F. People got it, but for some odd reason, HAL, hell, a lot of people completely missed out. And I thought it would be the easiest. The 2001 Odyssey.
Sure, classic, absolute classic, right?
Clark. So computer's name was Hal. But you know what made people think? I've had multiple answers. People were guessing. People were, you know. We need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more challenges like this, you know. I would love for people to read some of the books that were my either childhood favorites or actually as an adult. I found some authors, some books that really touch my heart.
They can do it.
Childhood's
That's the purpose
End
of literature.
is one of them. It's actually a very obscure book of Arthur C. Clarke. It's not one of his big Rama or, you know, Odyssey. It's a very small book. It's called Childhood's End. It's more like novella. It's about humanity ending and mutating in a completely different species.
Wow.
But one person gets taken away by aliens. And when they bring him back, he's the last human left. The last one.
A bit similar to Stranger in a Strange Land.
So yeah, so I can relate to that. I'm kind of like a last of my kind because I couldn't have children. There's no continuation of neither of the. I'm the only child, so in a way, that book resonates with me. Yeah. I mean, in my genetic pool, I am the last one. But the book is amazingly well written. So, as I say, Altered Carbon, that's another one that I absolutely enjoyed reading.
By who?
Maybe I should start the science fiction book club for the young kids.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, well, whatever, listen, keep spreading the word, keep overcoming those challenges and keep inspiring people. Your story is an unmatched one. It's something beyond understanding, and it's absolutely unique and crazy and scary and beautiful and powerful at the same time. So thanks for sharing this fantastic 3 hours with me. It's been nothing but huge privilege and pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. And you have a good eat. Oh my God, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning for you. Yeah, go to bed. Yes. Well, it's lovely, Bogdan. Very nice to meet you. Likewise. And do send me a reference for the book, please. Absolutely. I always look for new recommendations from people. For sure. All right.